Just point to the camera. What is up, YouTube? Welcome to the CITIUS MAG YouTube channel. I'm Chris Chavez, joined alongside Kyle Merber. We love track and field, but we also love marathons. We're here at the Brooks Hyperion House on 154 Newberry Street to watch the Boston Marathon, unpack all the action, get surprised, because that's what Boston does. Kyle, how pumped are you for this race?
So this is my first Boston.
What? Ever?
I've never been in Boston for the marathon, and I've kind of like already emotionally exhausted because of how much has been going on since Friday.
It's a whole weekend.
But I think once that gun goes off, I can get up for it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, it's not just the race on Monday, it's the 5K, the mile leading up to it, the whole community rallying around it. People are here, they've worked their butts off, they've qualified for the race, and then, now that a day like this comes around, and with a marathon, there's so much unpredictability where like 4 years ago, it was the monsoon that led to Des winning the whole thing, and one of the biggest surprises ever. But in this case, like, the weather seems to be perfect, and like weather is like the biggest component when it comes to like a marathon. That like the buildup and the race day nightmare comes in with the weather.
April in the Northeast, the complete unpredictable beast. One thing is for certain, always bad for those with allergies.
Yeah. My allergies are acting up a little bit, but
yeah, you don't sound like yourself today.
I'm powering through.
Bad day for live stream. But no, I mean, we seem to have perfect conditions. I went out there for a run this morning with a few on the CITIUS MAG team. You were not there,
no,
so we were able to actually get moving a little bit. And I was looking around. I was like, where is everyone? I thought Boston was a good running city. It turns out they're just like 26 miles away from us right now.
Yeah, so the race starts out in Hopkinton, and it makes its way all through these various little towns. And it's so different from like a New York City marathon where it's like every single part of the course is packed with fans and it's loud. In this case, like it kind of ebbs and flows. And spectator-wise, it's not the friendliest of
you kind of have to pick and choose.
You have to pick where you're going to choose to cheer for your people and be there.
I think watching TV with us, 154 Newberry Street, and come on down, get some coffee and donuts, and then being able to walk over to the finish is one of the better ways I can imagine.
Yeah, so for today's plan, like, we will be giving you guys analysis, some jokes. Kyle's good for that. If you ever wondered what it's like to watch a race with us, a marathon especially, this is your behind the scenes peeling back the curtain where how's Kyle going to be tweeting off his jokes? How am I going to be sharing some splits here and there? Yeah. So this will be fun. We'll be bringing on special guests all throughout the morning. So what we urge you guys to do is turn on the stream. It's on USA Network or it's on Peacock. And
put that on your TV.
Put that on your TV. I would say open us up on your iPhone or your laptop and listen to us. Yeah, and listen to us talk, because I think we'll be telling some funny stories. We'll bring on special guests. We might be even doing some giveaways and some predictions. So a reminder to people who are watching right now, before the races even start, is that we have a prediction contest right now on our Instagram account, where if you predict Des Linden and CJ Albertson's finishing time, plus where they place as the Americans, whether it's number one American, top three, whatever it is, drop that in the comment section of each respective post, and you're entered for a chance to win a pair of the new Brooks Hyperion Elite 3s, which you're rocking right now.
So I was actually joking on our run today that I've worn super shoes for 4 days straight.
Yeah.
Now, and you would expect actually to feel way worse after that. But mileage is up the last 4 days.
You did a workout with these,
I did a workout in them.
So give us
the easy runs, which I don't think they're for, but they're doing really well.
Give us the 50-mile review, basically.
Yeah, out of box feel, super, super comfortable. I think I had the first version of the shoe, and I felt like I needed my calves to build up some strength first. Like, I put those on, I went for a run, and like the next day, I was like, all right, like, calves aren't ready for the carbon plate quite yet. The calves have been out of the game for a little while. Put these on, have run, I don't know, like 40-something miles in them the last few days, and feel good.
Awesome. Yeah. So I've run a couple times in them as well. I've actually loved the different iterations of it. There was a big jump from version 1 to 2, and then everything you loved about number 2 is now in number 3 with an even lighter upper, and it feels great. So here's your chance. You could get a pair for free if you enter the prediction contest, and we're going to close it. Actually, you'll get to see me close the comment section live on the air as the races start. So we're set for right now, the wheelchair races are going on right now. The professional men will start at 9:37, and then the professional women start at 9:45. Then after that, I believe, is the first wave of the mass runners after that. So it's going to be a nice long morning. What do you sort of make of like the later start? New York, 7 a.m., 8 a.m. start sometimes. This time, like, there's a point where like it's going to get warmer as it goes along, I guess, towards the end of the race.
Yeah, we were talking about this on our morning run. It's like the weather is really ideal for a marathon out there right now, but a lot of the general masses aren't starting for at least a couple hours, and by the end of the day, it'll touch 50, which is still fine, but I think conditions-wise, we really can't be asked for that much more. We've had a lot of discussion about the tailwind. We thought it was maybe flipping to a headwind, but it sounds like we're good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring this up multiple times throughout the day. The thing I am rooting for more than anything is I want Olympic trials qualifiers, because there was a lot of conversation about, especially on the women's side, about 2:37 being really fast. And look, you got a good day at Boston, we're going to start filling that field really quickly.
I think it's going to be I think the number is what, a couple dozen or two so far for the women. It's super early on in the qualifying process, but today I wouldn't be shocked if it doubles.
Yeah, well, I've been beating the drum that people rise to the occasion.
Yes.
The men 218 probably a little bit weaker to some, or at least historically it's not progressing as quickly.
Yeah.
Like we've seen men run the 218, what was it, just 219 I think the last cycle, and they knocked down 218.
218,
The women knocked down significantly, and so I think still that we're going to see a couple hundred women on the start line in 2024, wherever that ends up being, and a perfect day in Boston will help prove me right, hopefully.
How would you ever feel? I mean, like, it's totally up to local organizing committees, but if the trials were held on a course like this, it honestly would be pretty interesting, because in some cases the Olympics are not Sapporo was, I think, a little bit flatter, but for the most part challenging.
Yeah. You know what?
I like the unpredictability. Atlanta, that was the beautiful part of that race.
I to your point earlier, I like the loop course for a trials race, whereas
they would have to do something for that here.
It's very difficult to be able to watch 26 miles and get everyone to multiple spots. So, but yeah, I think combining it in a city that can handle it, and I think that's the conversation right now, is which city wants to take on that load, both financially and just like the burden of hosting?
Yeah.
I keep saying Minneapolis should step up.
I like that. I like the running culture in Minneapolis is great. They've held the U.S. championships a couple years back, so
it's a good running city.
It's a great running city.
I can see Pittsburgh also stepping up. I'm thinking like you're going to get those like big size.
Austin, I think, was in the running for the 2021s. Chattanooga was another one.
Yeah. These are the cities that. So, Boston would be great. But,
New York would be even better.
For us, nice commute. So that's one thing that I'm looking out for today. And actually, we're speaking with James McCurdy yesterday, who has a lot of athletes that are trials qualifiers and trials hopefuls. And he was saying that in order to, we were asking, like, Boston does count, right? And so Boston has a net drop of like 3.23%.
Is it just under?
And so you need 3.25% in order to be a trials qualifier. So I have a feeling that there was a little conversation involved of setting that threshold.
So that's kind of in the bigger picture sort of storylines to watch. Now, should we start to unpack a little bit about what to look for in the pro races?
No, we can't.
All right, ladies first. I think the story is that Bridget Kosgei holds the world record at 2:14.04, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she would be the greatest marathoner right now. Like, I think that is a title that's up for grabs today, because we've got Paris Jepchirchir, the Olympic champion, and then Jocelyn Jepkosgei, who won London, I believe, last fall. She, the two of them, I think, faced each other in Valencia maybe 2 years ago with Chirchir winning that one. So you've got the Olympic champion, you've got the London champion, and this is their first time meeting since then. So they have the two fastest times on paper. New York last year was awesome to see Jip Chirchir win that one, coming back from the Olympics. I think she would be my favorite for this race. But today, the greatest marathoner on the women's side gets determined on the Boston course.
Yeah, I think that's the storyline.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of names, and something that we should probably talk about is why there are so many people running the Boston Marathon this year. And it's because London is not in the spring.
Yeah, London got moved to the fall for the second consecutive year. So that means in a typical year, you'll see Boston on Monday and then London the following Saturday. And with that not being on the same calendar, then it just kind of, or in the same week, that means all the people who would typically take a big appearance fee for London
has like the
huge money.
Yeah. Which I wish we heard those numbers.
Yeah.
Like, let me know why you chose to run London.
Maybe we'll bring
Boston
on a special guest who can maybe let us in on some of those conversations.
We're speculating, but like,
it's got to be 6 digits,
right? Like for some of these athletes,
yeah. So then with London not being the same week this year, then that means it frees up the opportunity for some of those top international athletes. I would definitely say on the East African side for sure, because they typically go to London to chase fast times. And now with this being the only major in April, it opens the door to one, score points for like the Abbott World Marathon Majors, title, and then in addition to that, it's another extra payday because in the fall you'll have the opportunity to run fast in London.
I think that part of the complicating factor of discussing who the best marathoners are of all time. Yeah. Obviously, Kipchoge is making it pretty easy for us
on the men's side. Yep.
But there's the 5 majors.
Yep.
Right, 5?
Six.
Sorry.
With a 7th potentially added. Yeah.
What's the 7th potential?
I think it's somewhere in East Asia. I think
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, there's 6 majors that everyone's doing. Not everyone always runs the world champs. For the most part, everyone gets up for the Olympics. So if you're doing 2 marathons a year, there's many opportunities to have right. And so, with varying conditions, course difficulty, it's very much a subjective discussion in terms of that. And we're fortunate that we're getting to the best actually.
You can add another extra layer of like politics to it, where it's sort of like agents don't want to hit 2 stars up against each other. So it's like that's why like we bring so much more. I think Jim Chirchir was a project even better than we had. Because on the men's side, you need to kind of compare things with Tony's Bukele so everyone listed. In this case, I think these 2 showing up here Boston healthy. They're both ready to bring it. But if you kind of look outside of the fact because the New York City Marathon is a great sort of finished 3rd in New York, charging hard. Right here, first ever marathon. Now, Boston in a perfect day like this, she could be the shot.
Yeah, I think she's someone that we're looking at. I do want to say that I think that was storyline perspective. There's a lot of many stories. And so, like, from our the perspective of us, like, breaking things down to simplify there's so many people that come. One of which, I'm so sorry if we're going to butcher this name. We can do a better job. And she was only 15 seconds behind. So, very much in the conversation, that race until the very end. So, I think she's someone that maybe doesn't have quite the banner name because she wasn't the world champ, but is someone who's
we should. Yeah, we should be back. Of course I turned the entire soundboard off there for a second. We should be good.
All right, if people can hear us, let us know in the chat. But no, I'm right with you, Kyle, especially because she's a member of the NN running team. You were just over there. It was just over there. It was kind of like, it was cool. I was out in Rotterdam. They were celebrating the 5-year anniversary of like their team, and
Hold on. 1 sec. What? Hold on. Once.
they built this portfolio sponsor. They got, I guess, like the shoe company back to them, and then they got like a whole other. It's a very
Yeah, I know. Here, type to him. Type to him.
We're getting this figured out before the race starts.
Oh, I thought you guys were actually going already.
No, we're going. No, we're going.
All right.
But
All right. Now
our
we're good.
audio dropped, I think.
Yeah. All right. Now we're back on. That's my fault.
Mac, put the camera on yourself and apologize to everyone for what you've
All right.
done.
I'm sorry. I turned the soundboard off on accident. I'm obviously a professional here.
Wait, can you guys hear us now? Let
now
us
they
know
can
in the
hear
chat.
us. All right. My bad. Hey, my bad. All right. Now we're back on.
I think we should be back, right?
Yeah. All right. So, you're supposed to be watching on the couch with us today. This experience. There's a reason why we're not on NBC.
Yeah.
And
This is
it's
gonna
Mac's
be.
fault.
This is completely my fault.
If you guys could see the wires just kind of everywhere. All right, we're back in the game. You said. All
you'd
right.
understand
We're
why this is a
discussing
mess.
the NN running
The
team.
NN running team. I mean, the podiums finishes. It was funny when I was talking to them. I was like, "Oh, so like 5 years into this, like, how you guys feeling about it?" And they were like, "Well, with year one, their goal was to, or in the first 5 years, they're like 100 podiums, and they blew past that within like the first 2 years, and then they were like, so we're gonna set it at 200, and then after that, the pandemic hit, so they fell short of that goal. But it is considered, I guess, like I would say, just like the roster of athletes and the just kind of like the amenities and stuff that they have to help these athletes get the proper training, conditioning, that you see the singlet, you immediately assume like that's going to be a contender in the race. So like with someone like Azamaru, we're butchering the name, but I think you can't discount the fact 2:17.58 London last year. That's going to be worth something here. But again, I think I come back to the point that it's like fast PRs don't necessarily mean that the person is going to be the favorite in this race, because someone who we're looking at is Edna Kiplagat, who finished second here in this race last year, 42 years old now, has, I believe, 13 podium finishes at the World Majors, has won Boston before, won New York, won London, like one of the greatest marathoners in history. And
You were
like,
just saying, like, we can have this conversation about who's the greatest female marathoner in history.
resume-wise, she's up there, for sure.
Of course. And, I think we keep as, like, spectators, 42 years old, like, her time, it's gone. And I feel like we're consistently extending the shelf life of all of these athletes.
Yeah.
We've seen Meb and what he was able to do later in his career.
On the Canadian side, good New York Times story by Scott Kashola about Tasha Wodak and Melindy Elmore. Check that out if you want. They're both 40 and I think 41.
Yeah.
Crushing it. They're ready to mix things up here.
Yeah, Melindy's actually 42. She was ninth
Yeah.
at the Olympics. We got to spend some time with her earlier in the year in Germany. Really, really cool story.
Yeah.
So this idea that we're going to count Edna out just because she's 42, it's like, well, look at the history. Just last year, she was second. So still someone that we're going to be keeping a very close eye on.
Yeah, so the women's side is filled with so many awesome storylines that it'll be cool because we've done our homework. We've wrote, I wrote out the previews, which you can read on CITIUSMAG.substack.com.
I don't know why you didn't put it on the website. Go on.
And so we'll be able to tell you guys, like, who, if you see someone up at the front of the race, there's a chance we know what's happening, what's going on, and we'll be ready to react to all the big moments. We'll give you the splits and everything you guys need. So that's the women's side.
Well,
men's side.
we didn't touch Americans.
Oh, yeah. Women's American storylines to watch. Well,
We're going to
Molly's-
talk a lot about
Yeah,
this as we go.
and we're bringing in Dana Giordano.
Dana, come on in.
Dana will be on the stream with us as well. We're gonna bring in more and more special guests. We have plenty of seating here to have a good time. Dana, yeah, you just need to grab one of the mics.
Grab one of those microphones. Hopefully Matt can figure out how it works.
Let's see.
All right, we're good. Dana, you lived here in Boston for several years. How does Boston Marathon weekend compare to just like any other weekend in Boston? Is it the best one? Because like New York City Marathon weekend in New York is the best one.
It's a really hard question, but Boston weekend kind of coincides with good weather. So you've come out of this horrible winter, and you finally feel like you can breathe. The trees are blooming. Everything's going on. Everything good in the world is happening. The Celtics are in the playoffs right now. People are just stoked.
Yeah. The energy is high.
Basketball fan.
Whereas like in New York, it's getting colder and colder, and you're just like, I know what's coming.
Yeah. The New York City Marathon's like the ultimate sign of like winter is here. This might be the last good weekend that we have.
And I mean, New York Marathon weekend this fall was spectacular. When I left, I almost cried because I was like, wow. And then I forgot that the bad weather was coming.
Yeah.
So you're like, it's not all.
So you
it's
moved
not
to
always.
San Francisco.
So then I said, done with the winter.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
All right, so American women. Break it down. Who are we looking at?
Well, I think we have Molly Seidel coming off a phenomenal New York City marathon.
Fourth
in New York, just getting faster. I honestly think, Boston isn't known as the fastest course, but we've seen people throw down pretty fast times here.
Yeah.
And I don't think Molly's had an opportunity to run her fastest marathon.
2:24 in New York.
I mean,
a non-perfect build.
Exactly. So I don't think she's run her fastest marathon.
I agree.
yet.
I'm saying she's got 2:19, 2:20 in her.
Yeah. So I mean, she puts in the miles. She's been doing 130 miles a week in Flagstaff.
You heard that right, people. 130 miles a week. She's on the upper scale of things.
Combined.
Yeah.
Do you think our average week hits 130?
No, because I bring everyone down.
What are you running now? Like 45?
I've hit a couple 50s here.
Okay, so we're at 100.
20.
Are you good for 30? Oh, sorry. So she's got us.
Molly runs more than all three of us combined.
And here we are talking about her performance.
Yeah.
So
What gives us the right?
You could add my
No,
fourth,
right.
and I think
Well,
she still has us.
None at all.
Matt's good for a couple. He said.
I will say, I complained so much on our 8-mile run this morning that I had to apologize to Kyle and Dana.
Every bridge that we saw along the Charles Map was like, is that the one we're going over? Is that the one we're going over? But, all right, so Molly's in it. I think this is going to be, I think she walks away with a PR.
I think she walks away with the PR. We got to round out the Puma women's squad because they're rolling pretty deep in this marathon. We've got Sarah Vaughn, who has now decided she is a marathoner. I'm not counting her out in the 1500, though, because she's also putting in the miles. So I thought this was just kind of, I'm going to put the base in, run in the fall, win CIM. But I honestly
226 there.
I think this kickoff for Sarah is going to set her up for a phenomenal track season. I know we're supposed to be talking about the marathon, but just looking forward here for a second, Sarah puts in the work as well.
Yeah, I could see her dropping down and doing a 10K or something.
Yeah.
With this base.
226 for her debut to win CIM. It was number 5, I think, on the U.S. debut list. I mean, it's crazy to think about the fact that like a year ago she was coming off this time she was coming off of like the Trials and Miles, like Texas qualifier, steeplechasing in Kansas City, and now here we are. She's one of the headlining USA women in the marathon.
Then you also Puma Dakota Lindworm. She finished 13th year last year, so another strong Puma athlete. Then someone that's very interesting that we should touch on is Nell Rojas.
Yes. So the CITIUS team was made aware of some knowledge. I think we're just going to kick it off now that Nell does her own thing. I don't know Nell personally, but Nell's an athlete that really, if you follow her training on social media, very committed to lifting, very committed to, training. Kind of, a salmon swimming upstream, some could say, not following what every single other person's doing.
She came in very late in her career. Like, she wasn't the stud in college who immediately came out, joined a professional track team. Like, now, in her, I think early 30s, really just like burst onto the scene.
Yeah, and she had a phenomenal Boston, top American in Boston in the fall. And I'm excited to see what she does because she says she's been training a lot to strengthen her quad strength. And for Nell, that actually means something because I know she lifts very seriously. So I'm like, well, if you're training your quads, this could mean going out with the leaders.
So all right, so she was 6th last year, was unsponsored at the time, comes out, signs with Nike because of it.
No, signs with Adidas.
Signs with Adidas.
Yes.
And ran for Adidas this year.
For 4 months.
Yeah, and we found out this weekend.
This is what CITIUS has been made aware of, is that, I think this is an interesting part as being an athlete. Kyle, you ran for one brand, I ran for a different brand. Sometimes the shoes don't work for you. and that's what Nell decided. The shoes didn't work for her, so we don't know what she's going to be wearing today.
We heard she'll be wearing, I think, Alpha Flies. Was that?
I think so. I think that's what Allie Feller tweeted.
Well, I don't know the whole outfit because I heard Alpha Flies, and then I heard Tracksmith shorts, and I don't know what the top. I need to see the whole
we'll find out
look.
shortly.
It's a fun subplot to things that we don't talk enough about. Like,
Do you think it's going to throw
following
off
this
the
side
main
of things.
announcers because they get those pre-pictures?
I think like everyone's
figure
familiar
it
with her after last year. I would say a sixth place again this year would be phenomenal based off of just like the depth of the field for her. So even anything top 10 would be fantastic. So definitely one to watch there.
So we've got the men on the starting line now.
It's about to get going.
We haven't even fully dove into the men. People to watch.
I think we can do this as we kind of like are panning over them with like the focus right now was on Benson Kipruto, right? Who won last year's race. Is trying to be the first guy to go back to back since 2008. Like this field on the men's side is so deep that I had it pulled up here. There are, let's see, Kenenisa Bekele was one of the headliners, but pulled out a couple weeks ago. Now we still have, even with his absence, we still have 5 guys who have broken 204.
It's the depth of marathoning right now.
Yeah.
Like 204 was the world record, I feel like, yesterday.
Well, yeah, the guy who has the fastest time is Berhanu Lagese, who's run 202.48, and I was like 202.48, like that's faster than when the world record was with Wilson Kipsang 203.23, and
they're off.
There are CJs to the front. CJ's to the front. We haven't even talked about CJ Albertson. He's in the front of the race already. No one's going with him.
It's
this
over.
is great. It's over.
We're done.
We picked the right place to watch this race here today.
So we made an agreement yesterday, Kyle, that if CJ wins the race, you're gonna take
A shoey.
A shoey. There's clam chowder here everywhere.
Wait, I think we need a
So
can.
you're gonna have a
Can we
can
get a
of
clam
clam
chowder?
chowder.
Come bring us one of those clam chowder
Yeah.
cans.
Let's see.
There he is. There he's going.
Here we go. It's
This
Run
is amazing.
Happy Clam Chowder.
So Kyle will be doing a shoey of clam chowder out of a Hyperion Elite 3.
We don't know if this is actually clam chowder though.
It's
it
a
could
very
be something else.
expensive shoey. The thing
I'm
I
keeping
love
it.
about CJ is that he's doing exactly what we thought he would do.
I think we gotta throw it over to Mac for this one.
Yeah, Mac, okay, so did he discuss, you shot the workout video with him a couple weeks back. Did he share with you any sort of insight like, yeah, I'm going to do it again?
No, honestly, it sounded like he was going to run with everybody for at least the first bit, but everyone saw his Strava post last week, and he was like, just in case I find 450 pace, I might be going out a little
Just
bit
in
faster.
case, might dabble.
He found it. And here he is. This is...
I can't believe this is happening. Yeah. So we were talking about this on the run this morning. Mac was saying, it's crazy. I feel like all anyone's been talking about in the lead up to this race is CJ.
Yeah.
And like no one's even talking about the other Americans or all the studs. Like people are just so interested by CJ, and we're like, maybe that's just because we've been at the Hyperion House and we hang out with Brooks, and so like we're living in this little CJ bubble, and then it was like, no, Mac, this was all your fault. Like, you made this crazy video with him, and now he's become, like, this most polarizing figure. I think he's earned himself a lot of fans, but some people think he's crazy.
Yeah, there's definitely people who think that his training is unconventional and untraditional. When I said to him, I was like, in the podcast episode we released last week, where it was like, why is your training like so untraditional?
Oh, look at his
He was
little-
like,
he's got his
he's like,
little
it's
call
not,
out here.
it's not untraditional. And I was like, I would say running a 2:10 marathon 3 weeks out of your goal race is pretty untraditional.
Well, he thinks that he's a 206 guy.
Yes.
Which is cool. Like, that's how you should approach racing.
I think I'm a sub 5 miler.
Yeah, I mean, we know you're not, but CJ might prove us correctly in a couple hours. And so, I mean, Mac, do we want to get you started on this?
On my hot take here?
Yes,
Yeah,
hit us with
go
the hot
on.
takes. People are tuning in for some takes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of BS people saying it's that he should be like sort of like yanking his leash back in, or if he had guidance or something like that. Like, my take is U.S. marathoners aren't that good internationally. We aren't. Japan has 75 men better than our second best guy. So if he's doing something slightly unconventional, I think that's good. I mean, we have to be doing things that are different. to be better. And I think he's doing just that.
And what was your other thought too? It was just sort of like the way that these races play out sometimes, especially like on the men's side, is that they just get to a race like this. They've had a perfect build-up in training, and then they just choose to race each other on race day, as opposed to like actually trying to see like how fast they can go.
There's a lot of money to be the best American. So I think the Americans tend to group up around each other, and it's like whoever feels best over the last 4 miles, they get the paycheck.
Yeah.
So what CJ does, I don't think he really cares about that. He's trying to be the best him, not be the best American.
Yeah, and he's
just do it the hard way though.
Yeah.
It's like they're probably running the same pace right now.
We'll have to see if Julie's here to see if there's anything in his contract for like TV airtime, because he's definitely getting it right now.
Yeah. This is a good Brooks commercial.
Who turned around last year that ran backwards on the course?
That was in
That
Chicago.
was in Chicago.
Ian
Ian
Butler.
Yep.
Was like, I don't want to be in front.
They already
Are we
had
gonna
the
see that
highlight
again?
reel ready for CJ.
But he had no arm sleeves at this point, so, you know.
I mean, he's windmilling it. And yeah, that was also a very fun thing, is that he was waving to everyone.
Yeah.
And Mac, when you were in Fresno with him at Woodward, like everyone was saying hello to him.
It was running. It was just like running with Meb in Mission Bay in San Diego, where everyone is saying like, "Oh, go Meb, go Meb." Everyone around Woodward Park in Fresno was just yelling, "Go CJ! Good luck, CJ!" It was incredible.
Yeah, this is
It's not as big of a lead. It seems like they're trying to bridge the gap there.
maybe it's yo-yoing. I mean, a couple years back in 2018, Yuki, everyone thought he was just doing a fartlek out there by just injecting a little bit of pace here and there, but he did end up getting away from everyone. I think this time around, someone's coming up on CJ, or he's at least like reeling it back. The crazy part about marathons and watching them on TV is that when there's a water station coming up, not that there's one with 5 minutes into the race, but you kind of lose this sense of just like, is someone making a move? It's like, no, they're just grabbing a bottle of water.
And the camera angle. I feel like we need more drones in marathons.
Oh, that'd be nice.
You can't get helicopters, seemingly. We're not, the Tour de France, but there's not enough beautiful
I saw a
cathedrals.
helicopter this morning on the river.
Yeah. All right. Maybe we'll get
Maybe
one
they'll
later. I couldn't tell who that was. Maybe that was Benson.
It looked like it was an Adidas kid,
Well,
so
we
it
can
could
try
have
to
been
get some subtitles on here too. 'Cause
some closed captioning. So I was curious. I did see Kevin Hansen around the house. I'm curious if we could pull him in to kind of talk a little bit about sort of Mac's point about like the way the Japanese marathoners train. Like it served as a lot of early inspiration for the Hansen's Brooks project, and just changing up a little bit of how Americans train. So I wanted to get a little bit of his perspective. We'll see if we could pull him in in a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about marathon training, is you're kind of riding this razor thin line. I mean, in any event really, but even more so in marathon running, where you're like constantly on the verge of doing too much, and the better you know your body and that ability to like balance and be like, I can run 130 miles a week while still doing this intensive workouts. The more cycles that you go through, the better idea you have of what you're capable of.
and we have the elite women on the start line.
There's Dakota Lindworm, Nell Rojas.
Oh, we missed.
We got it for a split second.
There should be a dedicated feed to both the men's lead pack and the women's.
A split screen? Nah,
Peacock.
never heard of it.
Well, I think we'll have the ability to pull that up.
So for the
nice.
people who are curious about what CJ's first mile split was, it was 4:42, which is 10 seconds slower than last year. The lead pack has caught him, and it's a huge group right now.
Cool. And that was Evans Chabet with him.
I believe so.
So Chabet's run 2:03 flat. So someone that is not afraid to go out.
Second fastest guy on the starting list right now. Chabet and Chirono had a crazy battle at Valencia last year, which was, I think, a lot of the reason why I was particularly excited about that matchup there. Chirono has won this race in the past. It was the down to the finish line, sprinting down Boylston with Elisa DeCisa a couple years back, and he ended up crossing the finish line and winning. But in Valencia, he got nipped by Evans Chabet. But they did run 2:03 flat and 2:03.04, so those guys have wheels. They could be dangerous on this course as well.
I've never been a huge arm sleeves guy. Like, I don't really see the purpose of it 99% of the time, but today is a very good arm sleeves day.
Big arm sleeves day.
It just brings me back to the super cold, windy 2018, where I'm not sure if it was Des Linden, but
She had the
Sabrina, I don't
jacket
remember
on.
her last name, but they said it was so cold and the women were so unprepared for how cold it was that a mile in, I saw this woman run up to a trash can, dump the trash out, and put the bag on her body, poke holes through it, and run with the trash bag on it.
That
So
is
this whole
genius.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
Mind
was
games.
wearing a crop and briefs, so hey, take the trash bag.
Well, I think that, getting a Brooks canopy jacket in those sort of conditions. Well, I mean, maybe we'd have someone from Brooks come and say, but I guess like the jacket that Des was wearing that
It's
year.
iconic.
It's got to be in a
now.
museum somewhere, right?
Well, like they sold out.
I think it's actually at the
immediately.
BAA.
What was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, the canopy jacket. Yeah.
How many did you sell after?
They sold out
Instantly?
You're wearing one.
So they didn't all sell out.
So the women's race is underway. Molly is tucked in a huge pack. I mean, we're 2 minutes into the race.
Dakota Lindworm up front.
It's not a place you want to be for the women's race because they look like, I can't tell the pace right now, but does not look like they're going very fast.
Well, then it just doesn't really matter.
Edna Kipla got on the
You
outside.
could trip though.
That is true. It's so shocking more people don't go down in marathons. Yeah.
It's going to happen now.
You see a lot of people slip at the end of races. Like
Yeah.
on the time that. Coach, you want to come in? We had some questions that.
I have no answers to any of the contract questions you have about
Yeah. So how much do people get paid to
Can't help you with that one.
So we were just talking about just seeing CJ up there and how a lot of people might think his training methods and his approach are a little bit untraditional. But then Mac brought up the point. It's like, well, it's just the way Americans run the marathon nowadays is like, if everyone's running 2:10, you have to be a little untraditional to try and break that mold. And I brought back sort of the point. He said there's 75, or whatever the number is, Japanese runners who are faster than the second fastest American man. And I remember just sort of a lot of the inspiration behind starting your training group was taken from the East Africans and the Japanese runners. So when you kind of see CJ doing things a little untraditionally, like, what was it, I guess, from like your observations studying those groups that kind of are reflected
the biggest
here?
thing is like when our instant reaction is that when we watch this, we think everybody's training the same. So so when somebody goes out, it's like, oh, stupid move, boy, they're cannon fodder. They're in trouble. But he trains with the intention of doing that. So it's actually he's calloused his body to doing those kind of things. So CJ is like. This is not a surprise. This is, and it's not like a coincidence. Like, gosh, he didn't learn from last year. No, just the opposite. He learned that I can do this and that I need to train accordingly.
Well, so what does that look like in training? So if you're trying to
I'm
teach your
not
body
his
to
coach,
go out.
and some of his stuff that he does is like.
Oh, you wouldn't
mind-blowing
recommend a
to me.
2:10 3 weeks out from your goal race?
I wouldn't do that, but honestly, the same kind of thing though is like him doing things that are different are probably what makes the difference. I mean, honestly, when you said that about 70 Japanese, when Yuki won here, he wasn't one of those 70.
Right.
So because he was training and doing things differently than everybody else, and so if I was on a panel with CJ yesterday, and CJ said something, and it's like, my goal isn't necessarily to be leading or build a big gap or do those kind of things. It's to make the race go faster at the beginning. And
Which is happening.
Exactly.
The second mile was 4:50, and they're not that far behind him. Like,
right.
Like the race is
And
going.
his goal was not to have a 30-second lead at 10K or something. His goal was to pull the field out with him. So I think whether or not, we don't know. I don't know how that's going to turn out, obviously, at the end, but he has been successful in his goal right now.
Yeah.
How do you, as a marathoner, pick which race you're going to do? Coming back from a lot of these marathoners did Boston in the fall, and now they're doing it again in the spring. Don't you want to mix it up?
Well, I mean, honestly, Boston is. But the one thing that happens with Boston is there's a huge advantage to doing it a second time.
Yeah.
Because the course is so unique, and there's people that understand Boston better than and like.
Did you say Des understands Boston better than everyone else?
You have no idea how many miles she's run on this course. Because you look at the races and say those kind of things. For 13 years, I mean, we came here every year and did course tours where we would do 50 miles just on the course.
Wow.
Every time. We would do workouts where we ran just the downhills, and then we would do a long run the day after, and things and we would do things right. I mean, Des knows potholes on this course, so it's like, I mean, she knows everything about this course.
I know the course, the second half of it. I've, really never run miles 1 through 15.
Those aren't the important ones.
Well,
Yeah, I know the hard ones.
Those are the hard ones, but they're the harder ones, having put miles 1 through 15 in your legs first.
And this is why I've never done a marathon.
So when you look at something like today, the weather and all that stuff, like your kind of like history, knowing how these days go, like what was your sort of impression looking at the forecast and saying, is this going to be something like 2011, or like what was your sort of thinking right now?
Well, this is ideal day. The general rule of thumb always is, if the spectators are totally comfortable on the sidelines, it's too warm. So you want them to be slightly chilled. If the spectators are slightly chilled, we have a huge advantage for the runners.
Oh, this is a great split screen right here.
That looks good, doesn't it?
CJ's still up in the front,
but it does look like he has some company there, doesn't it?
Oh, and we're in a commercial break.
Yeah.
I feel like we just need more split screen the whole time, but then I guess we've got it. All
You've
right.
got, we're working on it. Oh,
Cool.
Nice.
So I couldn't see. Did you catch the women's situation? Does it
Still
look like they're
bunched up.
bunched
Yeah.
up? We're still waiting. The first mile split 5:44.
On the women's,
So relatively
that's slow.
conservative
That's
there, yeah.
slow for the women. I mean, winding it up, I'm sure everybody's deciding who wants to lead and who wants to. That's the one thing with CJ is like, I guarantee there's women in that field that want it to go fast.
Yeah.
CJ wants it to go fast, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make that happen. Not like count on somebody else. Like, he's not going to finish his race afterwards and go, gosh, I wish it was faster that first 10 miles. And some of these women may end up doing that right now. I don't have no idea how it's going to play out, but like that's leisurely for that group.
Yeah, Boston is unique in the sense, and New York as well, in which there's no pacers. So it's just truly a race.
Right.
Do you prefer that?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
You're old school.
Because, it's not just old school. That's where everything's decided. I mean, when we're going to be an Olympian, you're going to do it at the trials by having that style of race. So if you want an Olympic medal, you're going to do it in that style in the Olympic Games. And so I like that better. I think it changes things a little bit, and it makes individual tactics important.
We talk about it on the track, like how the NCAA system is so good at preparing athletes for the
rounds.
worlds and the rounds and championships. But also on the road, I feel like the tendency of Americans to always be running the majors in the U.S., which don't have pacers, probably prepares them really well for the world championships and the Olympics, and why, especially on the women's side, we've outperformed and gotten more medals than maybe we should in theory.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you go by the big time list, you got to go a few pages down before you find USA.
Yeah.
But it's not the case there. I mean, we'll have people competing for medals, and I do think is a huge factor having race courses.
What is it about Boston that does make it just more? When I'm looking at the start list and I see women who have, there's 4 women who have run under 220, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be the favorite on this sort of course. Like, what is it just sort of about this particular race that makes it just so unpredictable?
Generally speaking, and although the women haven't done this, people tend to and CJ's trained for it, so everything I say probably makes no sense with what we're watching on the screen right now. But generally speaking, Dana mentioned running the second half of this course and things in the past. If you were to go out and run the first half as a time trial, and then run the second half as a time trial, it would probably be 2.5 minutes different.
Really?
On separate, because of the difficulty of the two segments. However, so with the first half being like it is, 2 minutes faster, you'd think that going out fast is a huge advantage. Every year it's negative splits win the race.
Yeah.
So you go, so wait a minute, how come they're running negative splits on a harder part of the course? And so it really tells you the importance generally of not letting the first half of this course beat up your legs for the second half.
Well, CJ then obviously learned something because they just came through the 5K split just a little while ago in 14:55. Compared to last year, he was 14:29.
Yeah, he definitely dialed it back. So I don't know if that's as fast as he wants the race to be honest with you. So for him, based on what he said, but I also don't take a lot of heart in what people say before the marathon either.
14:29 was maybe a little too quick.
It was too, well.
14:55 is honest enough that
right,
it's
exactly.
moving.
Oh, yeah.
I think one of the things people give, as someone who's never run Boston, I might be saying too much, but I think people intimidate Heartbreak Hill a little too much because, I've seen women, run a 5:07 mile up. Because if you're feeling good at that point, you kind of know.
And you're exactly right, Dana. But the key is, how do you feel good at that point? And so that's Heartbreak. It's one of those location. It seems so much more difficult because of where it comes on the course and what you've done previously on the course. So you haven't built into this. And then let me stay relaxed. I get this. You have the opposite. You have the downhill at the start and the granddaddy of marathons with helicopters overhead at the start. I mean, you cannot train for 2 months and feel great for the first 5K. It's just like the way it is, the buzz of Boston and everything else. So it's really difficult to hold back.
Do you have any dark horse picks today or people that you're really keeping an eye on? Maybe on the American side?
Yeah, you know what? I
know you're biased.
I am definitely biased.
People,
I would definitely like Des to come through, but it's but the truth of the matter is, I don't. Hopefully, everybody's done counting out Molly in any situation ever now. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Wow, those trials sure were a shock. Oh, wait. Okay. Oh, those games sure were a shock. So I think we need to stop saying that because she obviously steps up at big moments. So I'm excited to see that. She has everyone talks about her untraditional way of handling things and stuff. Her ability to have fun, relax, absorb those things, I think is a trait that we could all learn from. So, so it's...
And that's what most of the race is. We're focusing on the elites today, but most people are out there running for a cause, running for fun. And I think what connects Molly to the rest of that group is the honesty of not every day is going to be good. I'm not going to pretend that it is, and I'm just trying to have as much fun out here. So I think a lot of the marathoners.
I think you're exactly right, and there, you can't have your game face on for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So you really need to pick and choose where that's supposed to happen. And I think if you're starting like this, super tense, and you're clenched fists and things, it's not. That's going to last for an hour and a half, and unfortunately, you have an hour of racing left.
Something that we were talking about was how on the track, that before the World Championships or the Olympics, all the athletes just drop in the last second, and it's like, come in, step on the track.
Right.
Whereas the marathon, you come out the week before, and it's like, for 12 to 16 weeks, you've been in, your camp, and you haven't seen anyone, and you've only been eating rice and beans, and things are crazy. And then all of a sudden, you get here to Boston, and they're like, all right, so you have this press conference, we need you here, you have a shakeout there, and there's so much excitement and so much going on. And it's really difficult probably to do all that and not burn yourself out emotionally.
It is hard. There's a lot on your plate. It's your handlers become very important here. It's a lot of times if you're someplace and you're supposed to be there for an hour, you stand in the back of the line with 10 minutes to go and tell people, I'm sorry, this is going to be the last person. I'm sorry, this is going to be the last person. And you be the bad guy so the athlete doesn't have to be the bad guy, and try to manage some of those things. But there is a lot asked of them and things. Speaking of which, Bill Rogers, and this is probably why everyone loves him so much, he doesn't put anybody at the back of the line. He's there for an hour, supposedly. 4 hours later, he's still signing and talking to people and everything else. He's just
I would do that if the line was long enough.
So what do you remember? I guess like it's been 4 years since Des won in 2018, but I was telling her in the podcast interview that we did just a little bit about how because it's been 4 years and like time passed and the pandemic, threw a wrench into things that like the spotlight on her coming into this race feels a little bit less than it was in maybe 2019 and like the year after because of how crazy it was. That Des flying under the radar is always great for Des. And so how do you remember sort of that 2018, like the leading up to it? The press conference before that, there weren't that many people there, and I had a conversation with her, and then 2 days later she goes out and wins the thing.
It was, 2018. It goes back much further than that. She was never counted in things. I mean, it's like in 2011, I just went back last night and read the Let's Run's
prediction or preview?
Prediction going into the race, preview going into the race, and things. And it said people that definitely have no chance to win. And she was like one of those.
We have to do a throwback to that.
Yeah, she also...
One of the people that said Des had zero chance to win was my first CITIUS engagement with David Melly and
we
Chris.
did a podcast right before.
And I said Des has zero chance to win.
And it didn't age well whatsoever.
Well, it's out there.
I mean, the thing is though, if you go back to 2011, I say that because even though she won in 2018, I really, the 2011 race was, one that they went back and forth in the last straightaway. She lost by 2 seconds, so on and so forth. And it was like super exciting for everyone. That race, there was a huge buildup about potentially an American winning that race.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what we look back to the race today
so
too.
It's like,
Well, look at the pack today on the women's side. We have so many Americans in there. The med side, CJ's still right in front. We have Lemma, who won the London Marathon in, I believe, blue on the left. The screen's a little fuzzy for us. I don't know if it is for you guys watching at home as well. So we'll try to get a little...
It looks like they're picking it up a little bit on the women's side.
5 miles in 23:56. So a 4:48 and 4:45 mile with the last two. So they're starting to get going a little bit. It looks like Yegon is now getting a couple steps on the field. So maybe CJ's not the only one who wanted this thing to get moving a bit.
On the women's race, the one that is so much fun to watch is Dakota Lindworm.
Yeah.
I mean, she makes me happy watching her. She smiles the entire race. It's just like one of those people that has that permanent smile stuck on their face. She's awesome to watch.
Yeah, so her and Sarah Vaughn up front, Molly there. A lot of Puma at the front, but still not moving quite.
Is that
yet.
Charlotte Purdue in there as well, who's kind of come on the scene, a British marathoner as well? She's run pretty quick. This is not
in
my
London,
forte.
I think she was number 2 all time for UK. So
I like this
because the UK did have that one runner that was pretty good one time. That Paula
Radcliffe.
I'm sorry, whatever her name was. Yeah, she was pretty good.
Looks like they're resetting these screens on our TV feed, but.
So 17:42 for the women at 5K. So still hanging out. And is that Des?
Everyone's there. Yep.
There she is.
I mean, these first couple miles of the marathon, too, there's not as many people as you get closer to Boston. But when you are watching all the way on Hopkinton, you see Des Linden leading, everyone knows her name.
The 5K is the first city that our village or township or whatever it's referred to in this area that the runners come into. So it's kind of, you have all this buzz at the start, and then it's quiet for the first 5K, even though it's incredibly downhill. And then all of a sudden now you'll start to see spectators and things that's in the women's race. The men are well past that, but in the women's race, you start to see spectators and things, and it's all you'll almost always see at every city that they come into, the pace drop about 10 seconds a mile for that city, and then it goes back to reality.
It's like you have the first 5K to just like kind of chill out and like not take things out hard enough, because then it only gets more enticing with the crowds after
Exactly. So if it's not the downhills that are trying to drag you out, it's the crowd.
crowds,
Right,
yeah.
exactly, Chris.
So on the men's side, Bethwell Yegon, a guy that's not in every preview.
He was not in mine.
He was not in yours. He was second in Berlin. That was his last race in September. And so
what did he run there?
He ran 2:06.
It was a slower year for Berlin.
And so when I'm trying to assess and make predictions, I always like to look at the recency. So if your last race is a second at Berlin, you're someone that we know is fit. You were fit in September. Wasn't that long ago. So, 2:06. It's funny that we're saying that's not fast. Obviously,
it doesn't matter in Boston.
But as far
throw
as
the
Berlin,
PRs out the window. Yeah.
So maybe. He's seeing this as an opportunity to impress you enough that you're not going to say his PR is slow anymore.
Well, the other thing, too, is like, who was the other person that I left out of the preview yesterday that you were kind of like studying up on? Was it Albert Career?
Oh, Albert Career.
Which is a massive mistake by me.
Yeah, that's on. You should have edited that.
Looks like the women's race just went through their first bottle station, which kind of always shakes things up a little bit where your bottle is. Looks like the pack is kind of coming back together. Molly's out there. I think this group of women, though, is going to start to shake up.
So Albert Career, our New York City champ, the reason why you left him off is because he doesn't have pretty form.
It's really ugly.
It's a marathon shuffle, but he ran 2:08 in New York this year to win.
And then before that, you looked it up. He has never finished outside of the top 3 of every single marathon he's run.
Yeah, he had one in Kenya this year or last year that he was 10th.
The one at altitude in Eldoret.
We're not going to count.
Excusable.
But he was second in New York in 2019. He won Houston. He won in Ottawa. He was second in Atsu Lake Biwa in Japan. He was second in Cape Town. So, and as you go through, he was first in Vienna. He always seems to be on the podium. And that consistency, it's hard to be consistent in a marathon. There's so many opportunities to screw it up.
When we ultimately kind of, and I'm writing these previews, I'm always thinking of so what have you done lately? And it's like,
he's done for me lately?
He's given me Career. 3 years worth of here's my resume.
Yeah.
Kyle, I got a question. When you were doing your research, you look this morning? On your way over?
Yeah.
Were you looking for things that would help you with the broadcast, or just things that you hoped to be able to trip Chris up on? That, you thought Chris
does all the research. I find one thing,
and then you're going for the jugular.
He's doubling down on Albert Career.
How it worked this summer when we did Torch Talk is that Chris had all the research. Kyle had the human interest pieces, Wikipedia being one of his main sources. And,
was that an acceptable source at Columbia?
Okay. You just have to cite it. If you didn't cite it, you'd be in trouble.
Okay.
So the men just dropped a 4:40 6 miles. Yegon's still up there. He's got a few feet on everyone coming through the bottle station.
I know this is early, but I love where CJ is.
One of my early years here at the bottle station, it was interesting because they had given these medical bottles that have the plastic tips that come off, and they didn't cut them.
Oh, what?
Oh, my God.
So they come to the first station, and this was, and I'll never forget this because it has to do with the mindset and back to where we were talking about being too tense and so on and so forth. And it was a warm year, and it was early. Everybody needed their bottle at that point. And I watched runners look at it and freak out. I watched somebody throw it on the ground and use some choice words. I watched all of that happen, and I watched Catherine Netariba unscrew it calmly and drink the bottle. And it was so much different. It's they called her Catherine the Great for a reason. It's she was so level-headed.
Yeah.
So there were no problems out there. It was only a problem if you made it one.
That's a great story.
So the only other American that I think is up there is Elkanah Kibet, who ran 2:11 in New York.
Was slept on before that
Top
race,
American
for sure.
there,
Yeah.
So I want to say his name on the broadcast now, make sure we're not sleeping on him.
Well, with Kibet, he's a member of the World Championship team for this summer. So, again, if we go back to the point of, running these other marathons without pacers, that's what the World Championships are going to be for him in Eugene this summer.
And then just looking at the Americans, the third American right now is Nico Montañez. So
Nico was on a roll he won the 15K in Jacksonville.
Nico had a great Chicago marathon, if I'm remembering correctly.
2:13, I think, is where his PR is from that race.
And that was a really hot day, so I think Nico's someone who could come out and finally get the race that he's ready for, because Chicago was super hot and humid this past fall, and I think that last couple miles really got to people. So this could be one of Nico's days, sneaking into that top 10, let's hope.
We'll get a 10K split shortly, but the update we've got is that Fauble and Benny were 15 seconds back of the lead at 5K. 29:38 is 29:54, right?
First, Fauble. Yeah, the leader was 29:38. Fauble was back 29:54.
So many numbers start getting thrown my way.
That I think in the early stages, that's a decision. It's not like, oh, he's dying. Like, the race is over. It's like, no, I'm going to go out at this pace and do my thing.
That's something that Elena Tabb did in the fall as well. One of her first Bostons, not knowing the course, kind of took it conservatively and ended up being one of the top American women. Didn't go out with the women's pack this past fall, and now has a little more confidence in the race. So I think depending on your confidence in your marathon training, it makes sense to just have those more even splits versus this big negative split that you were speaking about, Kevin.
I totally agree. I think that's depending on what kind of leg speed you have, you may not want it to come down to having to run a 10K at basically your 10K PR.
And one of the great things Elena was speaking to as well by staying her own consistent pace is that you get to pick people off at the end. And by having these separated starts for the women, it's tough because you're not going to catch the elite men's group and you don't have the sub-elite men. So it's been a bit interesting how they've kind of mixed up who starts first. Because personally, I enjoy having the ability to catch people in front of you as the race goes on. And the sub-elite men can be very, very helpful to a women's race. The reason why they separate it a lot of the times is so there's a separated finish, that you get the respect you deserve at the finish of the race, but it makes for a more challenging race if you find yourself alone early on.
It does, but you look at the huge advantages, what we're looking at right now. We got a double screen without men interfering with what's going on in the women's race, and so it's not. Oh wait, is that a woman? You don't.
I think it's a good thing,
Yeah.
and there's a large enough women's field now to do it. Sometimes when the women's fields are too small, it doesn't work out very well.
You're right.
So CJ is tucked in with the leaders.
Is there anything you guys love about where the American women are right now?
They're definitely running fearlessly.
Yeah.
Like, not scared to be up there. It seems like they're probably itching to go a little bit faster and just hoping someone else will eventually jump out and do it. The men have been in a much thinner line, sitting on one another.
And we've got this shot over here of the chase pack that
A lot of American men are
That's
in.
the Mac Fleet pack right there.
that's the anti-Mac pack.
You saw Ian Butler in there, I think Mick.
Iacofano,
there.
yeah.
Reed Fisher was up there. So, it's good to see that they're not strung out and everyone's running alone. It's really just broken out into two packs, and I'd probably rather be there than holding on for dear life.
One person we didn't speak to, is Jared Ward.
Yeah.
And
he was dealing with the underactive thyroid, I think, that he had going on.
Hopefully figured
Hashimoto's disease, that's what it is.
I think he's had an up and down last few years, but was able to finally identify the problem. And I think this is the first race that we're seeing him since he's really been able to.
Yeah.
I was in New York this fall,
figure out
kind
what's
of.
going on.
He was 10th in New York, yeah.
Yeah, so getting back to his old self.
5 miles, the women were 28:07. I'm going to tell you one thing about the women's field, and this goes back to what we were talking about with Des knowing the course better than anyone else.
The tangents.
When you see Des on one side of the course and you see everyone else on the other side, everyone else is wrong. Just so you know. So.
Molly, get over.
No, I could see Molly, I think, has been kind of near her for most of these moves.
I'd like to ask you a question about, a lot of people speak to the camber of the road. So these roads are pointier in the middle and then roll down on the sides. Does that make a difference at all?
Most of the time, you don't want to be in the middle of the road anyhow because it's not the tangent. You know what I mean? So to begin with, but yeah, there definitely is something to that. It's not. Even though this would be a course that would be more of a problem than elsewhere only because it's a one-direction course, you don't have here, there's enough winds in the road and so on and so forth that I don't think you're ever running on that kind of slant for that period of time, long enough period of time to be a problem.
Well, okay, so the reason why...
No, I don't think you... No, I would never train for that.
The reason why I asked this is obviously shoe technology has come a really far way, and you have, shoes with carbon plates on them. We're in the Hyperion House right now, and I would think that being on a slant with a carbon-plated shoe, that's a lot of lower leg intensity going on.
Yeah, I don't know how
there.
much research has been done on that. Okay, here you go, right here. Take a look. Look where Des is. She's
so
off.
funny.
She's off
screen
camera.
now. She just came off camera while everybody else is over there.
She knows what's coming next.
She does. She's aware of where the next turn
Oh,
is. She knows
CJ taking off the arm sleeves. It's time. It's getting real. Yawning. Bored. And the screen goes black.
So it's not necessarily following the blue line, right? It's just
no, the
you
blue
don't
line.
want to follow.
No, not necessarily.
Not on Boston
necessarily.
Sports,
The
yeah.
blue line is not. It's a guidance.
I think it's a logo.
It is a logo. It's hard to tell on camera, but the line is 3 stripes.
Oh, really?
So it is. The blue line is 3 stripes.
So CJ, I know the arm sleeves is actually part strategy because I think that's where he keeps his gels, right, Matt? So like he's taking his gels now.
Yeah, he's
Early
taking his
ones.
gels. Both of his gels and his arm sleeves are gone.
He was saying that he takes, was it 250 milligrams at the start of the race, then he takes it again a few miles in. So
Yeah,
it
90 minutes
takes-
before he takes his first gel, and then so he tries to keep it consistent, 250 milligrams, I think, throughout the race.
What does a cup of coffee have?
50.
David says coffee is 300. Maybe we're drinking.
Oh,
different
someone's getting
coffees.
dropped here. This is with a T.
We got some information that the men's leaders are on 205 pace in the chase pack. Chasers are kind of closer to 207, faster, earlier pace than the women who are kind of running more conservatively at this point.
Elkanah Kabet still very much in it on the outside in the Army jersey. Do not sleep.
The women
Yeah,
have definitely
I spoke
picked
too
it up.
soon. The women were not happy with that pace, and Molly Seidel's right there in a large pack.
The women were 28:04 at 5 miles. Their last 2 mile splits were 5:24 and 5:35.
Someone on the YouTube chat was saying how we might be ahead of some people watching at home, which I find just fascinating.
And here comes CJ Albertson
All right,
in the corner.
everyone watch on Peacock.
Welcome to Back to the Future 2. Give me
Yeah. Wish I can go back in time.
Ed
put some
Kiplegott
money
is
on
just
CJ
sitting
Albertson.
on the back of that pack over there. This is fascinating.
This looks like a training run right now for the women's. They're just in a line, locked in.
The women's race is really...
The women's race just got really hot. You could tell.
Really hard.
There's a decision to be made right now with Nell Rojas, who finds herself just behind that lead women's pack, and I believe behind her was Sarah Vaughn and Dakota Lindworm as well. So if we can see them right behind the screen.
I believe that's
Charlotte
just
Purdue's in the
coming up.
back of the women's pack as well. This is the decision you have to make. Are you going to go with the leaders, or are you going to find yourself in no man's land 32 minutes in?
Kipchirchir is in the front.
For those that haven't seen Charlotte Purdue race before, her arm carriage is always like that. It's and I say that, it's like the same kind of thing. I mean, you watch Paula Radcliffe and you go, oh my gosh,
With the
that
head
woman's going to
nod.
fall apart
Yeah.
any second as she pulls away from the field. And I say that with Charlotte, like I would always see when it gets down to a group of 5 or 6 and you go, oh, she's definitely hurting worse than everyone else. And then you watch somebody other than her fall off the pace. So it's just, that is her normal form. She's comfortable with that form.
CJ, back up front.
He's comfortable there, and some people are more comfortable leading than others, and CJ Albertson is just one of them.
Yeah,
and
well,
you can see Nell Rojas now just in the shade there, and she's right with Dakota Lindworm.
Yeah, it's Sarah Vaughn, Dakota Lindworm. If they work together, it's
sort of like
not
what we
as
have
big of
going
an
on in the men's
issue.
race. Yeah,
Des
And then
is back.
Steph Bruce might be back there as well, just behind.
I
It's
see
a little
Des
hard
back
to
there
see.
too.
You know, you're always comfortable with Des.
If this move was made and it's a real hard move, Des is smart enough to know whether or not she's able to handle that. And if it's not going to be, she's not going to make her decision based on what somebody else is doing.
How many moves do you have in a marathon?
Honestly, I prefer once you go, you go. I don't. A lot of this is the yo-yoing things in the first hour and a half of the race scare me because that usually takes away your legs for the last 45 minutes to an hour.
So they just hit 10 miles, right? Or is that 10K for the women? Yeah.
Yes.
10 miles.
I was about
World
to say.
record pace.
So got an update. The two favorites on the women's side that we were talking about before, Jepchirchir and Jepkosgei, are in that baby blue kit towards the front as they hit a water station right now. So that battle that we were hyping up before, still on our hands here.
The thing I always look at the water stations or fluid stations or whatever you want to call them, everyone is not as smooth as others going over to get it. That's where people tend to go down in the race is right there. That's where you're likely to see someone tripped up as they cross everyone because they don't want to miss that bottle, and that's the only thing on their mind at that second.
A missed water bottle, how much does that really actually mess with some runners?
Truthfully, at the end of all of these tables that you see, there will be a table with just water.
Okay.
And so it may not be the fluid that you wanted at that point, but it's there's still something, and it's always that's your backup plan. That's your backup plan always. So you could sometimes see people that go to that water table and know, they missed their bottle, kind of thing. So.
On the women's side, they hit 10K in 34:21. Molly Seidel, top American so far.
You also mentioned how, and I didn't know that, I'm learning from you, Kyle, when you said about CJ with keeping his goos and things in his sleeves. Obviously, he's not done with goos at 35 minutes or whatever that was when he split those.
Must have some other pockets.
Which means that,
they tape them to the bottles,
They tape
right?
them to their bottles. They usually tape them to their bottles.
Which makes getting the bottles
even more important.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, CJ was telling me he's afraid of how busy the first bottle pickup is, so he likes keeping stuff on him so he doesn't have to risk missing his bottle and relying just on that first station or just missing it or tripping or anything like that.
It's smart, and it's also something that when you watch the masses that they could all learn from, and that's the importance of the early stations, because so often the masses, I'm not thirsty yet.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm fine, so it's and that's, you're really, the fluids then are for what's going to happen an hour and a half from now.
I want to say the men's wheelchair race just passed by mile 24, so we might start to hear some cheering quite soon in the Brooks House.
Yeah.
We're on Newbury Street, so we'll be able to start to hear the excitement coming through. I think that was one of the coolest things in 2018. I was watching just down the road on Newbury Street, and you can really start to hear it from within these buildings. We're not that far away, so if anyone's here in that Hyperion House, you're going to start to feel that energy seeping through just one straight away.
The men hit 15K, 44:43.
Check out that ugly stride on the right, my man, Albert Courier.
I think you have to stop calling it ugly at some point.
It's so good. Yeah, we're saying that. Sorry, I don't know.
It's a badge of honor.
We're saying that with love. That he's clearly not a track guy. He's definitely a marathoner. He shuffles. But I still think he's going to win the race.
Joffrey Kemore right in front of him in the orange half tights there. He's just been chilling the entire time.
Yeah, so he was one of your picks to maybe win.
Yeah, I mean, he's won in New York twice. This is his first time here in Boston. There was a blog post out that he said that, he obviously trains with Eliud Kipchoge, and they have a hill they call it Boston in their camp in Kaptagat, where they go and train in Kenya. So this course, I definitely think suits someone like him pretty well. The biggest question mark with him is he was involved in a motorcycle accident where he was hit while on a run by a motorcycle in 2020, was forced to miss made a recovery quick enough to qualify for the Olympics on the track in the 10K, but then withdrew due to an ankle injury. And then from there, he didn't run a marathon again until last December in Valencia, where he ran 2:05, which is a personal best for him. So I still don't think we've seen him kind of cross that threshold to being like a 2:03 guy that I've imagined.
You think he's supposed to ascend the throne?
I don't think Eliud Kipchoge's getting off the throne for a while.
When is Eliud Kipchoge doing Boston? I think it's remaining of his World Marathon Majors. I thought this might be the year.
I thought this would have been the year too, but Tokyo's crossed off the list now, and he's got New York and Boston. I feel like it would go Boston, then he retires in New York.
All right, real quick, flipping back to the women's race. Women are on 2:25 pace, but the second 5K was 16:39, which is 2:20 pace. So really picking it up. Molly Seidel's right there
and
with
they're
the
down
lead
to 11.
woman.
11 in that.
11. And if you look back on this, is a really great view we have right now. You can see Nel Rojas, and they just cut it down a little bit, but this is when the race really starts. Another call out we got was that Mick Isofano is in that men's lead pack, an American, little untouted, so could be a dark horse today to try to break into that, top group.
The thing I like about Albert Courier, in addition to him going to be the eventual winner here, is that there's certain people that like it's very obvious when they're getting tired or they're breaking down, but that's what he looks like when he's winning the New York City Marathon, and he looks good now. And if he was falling apart and getting dropped, that's probably what he's going to look like. So I think some people have tells and different signs. Mac, when you were watching CJ, does he have any signs that we should be looking for? Did the arms start getting a little too crazy?
I don't know if my mic's on. No, he looks like this all the time. He has that crazy sort of arm swing when he's running down hills, but that's totally normal. I would say early in the run, it looked like he was a little bit more tired than what I thought.
The
just
first
because I was
mile
not
or
used
two?
to it.
Yeah.
But he kept rolling. So in that the run that I followed him with, he was really charging the uphills and the tops of the hills. So I'm excited to see what he's doing, what he's going to do in the second half of this race.
Based on how we saw the first mile go out, and not a huge surprise on the men's side as compared to the women's, where CJ was aggressive and the women were casual. And now at 50 minutes into the men's race, 49 minutes into the men's race, and 41 minutes, I don't think any of us would have thought that the men's field would be a group of 20 and the women would be down to 10.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
totally. It really felt like that speaks to how hard those moves were.
Yeah, exactly. When the move went on the women's side, it went.
Coach, I think we're going to swap you out here to bring on CJ Albertson's family, just so we could get a little bit of a temperature take on just like the feelings of seeing CJ on
guys.
screen
I'm
right now.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much,
Thank you.
Coach.
So the women's last 2 miles were 5:12 and 5:13. So that's why it has thinned out. Hey, Dad.
Hello.
How's everything going? How does it feel seeing CJ up on the screen right now?
Well, I think he's running his strategy, and we'll see how it plays out. I mean, he only has so much leg speed, so we'll see how that goes. But I think right now he's running his race, and that's what he always does.
Did he tell you guys what exactly he was going to do today?
He never tells us anything. We're lucky just to be here. We didn't know what it was.
He told you he had work today?
Yeah. He tells a little bit. I mean, I can tell because I follow his Strava like a lot of people, and looking at his times, I kind of know he's in a lot better shape than he was in October when we came. So I think he's ready. He won't say like he did this morning, mile 9, mile 12, mile 16. He doesn't tell us that kind of stuff.
All right, Mom, how do you feel watching this race, watching him take the lead? Is this how it's been forever?
No, not forever, but for the last year, definitely. I'm just really proud of him and glad that we could all be here. His new son and wife and
grandparents.
His brother Michael is here, and we're just excited. We know he's going to give it his all. So wait and see what happens. Either way, we're here to support him.
Last year, as you guys were watching the race, I mean, he led for 21 miles. Did you let the thought cross your head at any point? I was like, he might win this thing.
Last year we were actually right around the corner on Boylston. Nobody knew who he was. And we're just standing there, and all the people are like talking to him because they had it on their phones. And I was too embarrassed to say that's my son because I wasn't sure how he was going to end up. I was like, he's going to die. Like everyone else is saying he's going to die, but he didn't. And it was great. It was really fun watching in October. And I mean, it's kind of the runner he's always been. He goes out, even in high school, he'll go out and just run hard. And if they catch him, they catch him. If they don't, then he does well.
So we sent Mac out to Fresno to film the workout video with him, and the thing that stood out to so many people is just like his creativity to just like push the limits on getting the best out of himself. And it was just the sauna that he has in his room, like he's gotten creative to just find that edge. I mean, has he always had that sort of like creativity behind the scenes?
Yeah, probably the best thing about him is he's a study of the sport.
Okay.
And he's been that way in everything. I was a basketball coach, and I wanted him to be a basketball player, but at 5'8", it just wasn't going to work out. So he took running, and even in high school, he wrote a whole document for his high school team on how to train, not just how to run and train, but how to eat properly, how to lift. He's always been a study of the sport, and I think that helps him. I'm not saying other athletes don't do that. I know they do at this level, but he's willing to try new things because he has to. He doesn't have the same body shape as everybody else.
Yeah.
And so he has to take the strengths that God gave him and use them to his best ability, and he does that by research. He's not, this was a 4.0 kid in high school. He's not stupid. And so he really studies, and he's going to test and try things that other people may not try until he finds out what works for him.
So the cool part was watching him run in the park in Fresno that they went out to, and just like all the people in the community just saying hi to him and waving at him and cheering him on. What was that sort of like, just kind of seeing like the community embrace him as like this star athlete too?
Fresno is a great running community. People may not realize that, but there's high school teams that are really good in the Fresno area, and he grew up with one. So there's a lot of runners in Fresno, and actually there's a lot of runners from Fresno today running in the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
So there's a big contingency, and they're supportive. And and he loves it. I mean, he likes to run around, and people know his name, and they say hello to him. I think that gives him motivation. He wants to really make the city proud because he likes living where he lives.
Well, while we were discussing CJ's move, he's in the front. There's been a massive move in the women's race that we have to discuss. Molly Seidel has dropped back, as well as Charlotte Purdue. It looks like our favorites are completely throwing down at 46 minutes, have broken apart this pack of 11, and this is really early on in the race.
Yeah, so that was a 5:08 mile for the women.
Wow.
So now at this point, with their last 3 miles being 5:12, 5:13, 5:08, we're looking at, a sub-16 last 5K.
Oof.
So they're starting to roll. This is where we're seeing the women who have run 2:17. So, Molly has run with them at the Olympics and whatnot, but probably not as many 5:08 miles in her marathoning career as some of these others.
The other thing, too, is with Perez up there, there's a leveling up of women's marathoning, too, of once the world record is broken and people are training with the world record holder as well, that there's more room. So those, low two teens make it feel like it's a little closer within reach. So these women are not going to wait around. They're not going to let someone who hasn't done the training and work to come in and make it be a sin kick. So I'm really enjoying what's happening in this women's race right now. Sorry to interrupt, but I just was like, we can't miss the move.
Yeah, this is the move.
Also, I just want to call out Lawrence Toronto. I don't think we've talked about him.
Yeah, the past champion.
Yeah, so, 2:03:04. You see him there in the yellow and the blue. And, he's won Boston and Chicago in 2019, and he just barely missed an Olympic medal, finishing fourth. He won Valencia in 21. He's a guy that is consistently good, and he looks great. And I think the first, 10 miles, he was pretty content to hang in the back of the lead pack, but is now making himself known. He's been on the screen for, the better part of 10 minutes now.
Yeah, he's wearing the yellow and blue kit up towards the top. So if people are looking out for where's Lawrence Toronto, there he is. And that men's pack is still pretty tight. CJ up towards the front right now. So for the parents, I guess, when do the nerves really get to their worst on race day?
Well, here I think it's going to be mile 17.
Yeah.
And see how he does on the uphill. He struggled in October. I know he worked hard in training to improve those times. He's still not great at the uphill, but he'll be fine until we get to there.
Yeah.
So I think that's when the nerves set in, is like, how did the training go for him, and we'll find out.
He's so far doing well.
Is he the type where he knows all of these guys and all of their accolades and how fast they've run?
Oh, he must have studied, yeah.
Like I said, he researches everything. That's what he said about October. They didn't know him, but he knew when they would run alongside them who they were. And so he knows them all, and he probably knows their strengths as well as they know their strengths. And I don't know if that helps him, but he at least does know his opponents.
Seems like he's making his first big move here. And the women's side, we've dropped down to 4 now.
Yeah, I think in 4th place, that was my dark horse.
Yeah.
Dej 2, Esmeralda from the NN running team. So
And you got just Jepkazgai and Jepchirchir chatting to one another.
Yeah, there's a lot of pack work that happens at this stage too, where you don't want to do the work by yourself. So there is a little bit of, okay, you take the lead. No one wants to lead the whole time. And sometimes you can see later stages of the race a little bit of frustration when someone's doing all the work to push the pace and no one's taking over and supporting that lead. Looks like CJ doesn't care about that on the men's side, but that's what's going on for the women. We want to say thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
And
Thank you.
Good luck. And
Good luck.
We're going to maybe call you out for mile 17.
And then the third woman in the pack there is the Ethiopian Ababel Yeshina.
She was a late add to the field. Like it was not initially announced like in the first round of the pro field, but got added later on and has been running the marathon at pretty high level at least like the last 5 years, I think.
She was the former world record holder in the half.
Yes.
Which we've seen been beat.
That's traded hands so many times.
The half marathon record does not last long. Oh, look, there's a little bit of bottle sharing going potentially.
But she was 3rd in New York. That was, her last race that she finished in 2022. Her only result is 1 DNF. So
yeah,
she's up there. She's with the 3 that I would say we had expected beforehand. And then in terms of splits, we're going to be the women's last mile, 4:59.
I think this is the stage where a lot of these women are comfortable at that pace, and sometimes just locking in and staying consistent is the right thing to do. It looks like we have another group of women right behind them, a group of 4, and then Molly Seidel is probably in the next pack behind that as well that we can't see on screen. So that group of 11 broke into kind of 2 groups of 4, and then Molly a little bit farther back.
So do you want to say when the women ran 4:59 for the 9th mile, the men were 4:55. So dangerously close. The men have kind of settled into this low, mid 450 pace right now, which is why you see such a thick pack still.
And you're starting to see a lot of crowds on.
I think I would say I think CJ is running these downhills a little bit harder so he can ease up on the uphills. When I was with him in Fresno, he was running the downhills really hard.
So we're gonna have CJ's wife and baby. We love a good baby.
Babies.
We'll have her join on screen here for a sec because he's crushing it right now.
Oh,
all right,
baby.
You can sit right there, whatever's comfortable. Do you think your dad is gonna win? I think that was a yes.
That was a yes.
What's his name?
This is Luke.
Hey, Luke. Does he have any idea what's going on? Can you tell there's a lot of excitement?
No idea. I just woke him up from his nap, so it's a surprise.
Woke up to the good parts at least.
Are you surprised to see what's happening today? CJ out in front.
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah,
he knows.
He must know. There's like some sort of telekinesis going on with CJ where he knows that we're talking to a family member because he's putting on quite the show here. So during this training block, I mean, have you noticed anything sort of differently or just like confidence that he took from last fall to do what he did last year all over again?
Yeah, I feel like he's been like more motivated. Sometimes like his motivation can ebb and flow, like just like a normal runner.
Yeah.
But he's been like seeming more motivated, even like despite being busy, like he's found a lot of time to train. So
Is that fatherhood motivating him?
yeah, I like to think it's like some sort of dad strength.
For you,
but, yeah.
That's awesome.
How has it been for him? I have a 5-month-old as well, so I totally get it. How has the sleep and everything been for him
Oh, he's so lucky. He doesn't wake up
Is
at
it all
all.
you?
It's all me.
Yeah, I asked him. He said
100%.
he gets earplugs.
Yes.
All right, so if he wins, I would say that all the credit probably goes to you.
I think I should get some credit.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So when he came through the half in 21, he was 64.08.
Oh, so
And
this
so
time
we should
around,
be seeing this half marathon split any second now.
60 minutes at 20K is what it was.
Molly
All right.
Seidel at our last update was about 34 seconds off the leader, which kind of goes to show you when you're watching something like this on TV, you can't really tell depth perception here how far back. So that 34 seconds looks a lot longer. But she's the top American by far as well. We're hoping to get a Des update soon for all you guys at home.
So Chelsea, really quick, I guess, before we kind of let you rejoin the party here, the dad stroller so far, like, is he out there crushing miles with the stroller yet?
No, and I've been trying to get him. Like, I'm sure there's tons of like obscure records that have his name written all over it.
Let me get some first. I was gonna get a couple of them, and then CJ can come in.
No, and I told him like you should try to get a stroller sponsorship.
Yes.
We can make this a big thing. He
We know some
hasn't like
people.
caught on yet.
Yeah.
So, but I think enough people need to like start encouraging him. Like, we need some records.
Well, then, you got to talk to the sports marketing department here at Brooks so that they can, add some, world record bonuses
We
to his
making baby
contract.
strollers yet, Brooks? Or it's in the works?
Like, add some like Brooks stickers to the side of it.
There you go. It'll be great.
We got a split update of 60.01 20K for CJ leading up there, and they've slowed down to 207 pace, which is good news for the Americans. And then on the left here, you have Mick Isfano in the pigtails. Looks like he's got some
Is that
fun.
him? It's like some Princess
fun
Leia
buns going
sort of
on.
thing going on.
So a teammate to CITIUS MAG, David Melly. So be sure to hear more updates about Mick from us.
So CJ leading through the half, 63.24. Last year, when he had a huge 2-minute gap on everyone, he was actually slower. He was 64.08. So almost 30 plus seconds ahead. And except the only difference this time is he's got like 12 friends.
Yeah.
Thank you
Chelsea,
so much for
appreciate
coming
you
on.
joining
Thanks
us.
for
This is so
having
much
us.
Thanks for
fun.
coming on, Luke.
Thanks, Luke. Any final words?
Are those Brooks shoes or what?
I tried really hard to get baby.
Mac, can we get these on camera? Some monster slippers.
Oh, man, this women's race has just been broken up. As we're coming up on 1 hour into the race. I mean, a couple years back when Edna Kiplagat made the move and won in 2017 or 18, it was just like the Edna show for the second half of the race. I was 2018. I was on the lead truck for that one, and I was like, I'm just watching Edna run for the next hour or so. And we might have a similar case here on our hands, except, it's going to come down to a battle. Right now, it's down to 3.
Yeah, Hannah Bornstein let us know in the chat that there's also a Boston Hill in Ethiopia as well.
Really? Okay, that's
So
cool.
there's another Boston Hill. It looks like to get to is falling back a little bit off that lead pack. So we still have Perez, Jepchichir, Jocelyn, Jepskoskai, and Abel. Yes, Anna.
Our NN team runner
NN team.
got dropped just now.
So the 10th mile for the women was 5:05. So their
Wow.
last 5 miles now, if my math is remotely correct, was 25:38.
And then for the top American women, we have Molly Seidel, then Nell Rojas, and Dakota Lindworm.
Molly's, 72 seconds back so far? Don't count her out. Hey, David, you're feeding us updates over here. Come on over here.
Come on.
Grab the mic for a
It's
second.
time.
You're allowed to
It's
just
time.
be on your phone still and just give the updates.
David
to
has been
everyone.
crushing the CITIUS MAG Twitter account, so if you're out there right now, hit follow. And for the 881 people watching right now, hit that subscribe button. We need some more subscribers on this YouTube channel.
I can't believe how many men are still here. All right.
Well, hold on. David, tell us a little bit more about Mick.
Yes, Mick
Sure.
has a great story.
So, Mick Isofano he works for full-time for the Tracksmith product team. He is an Ohio native who went to the University of Kentucky.
Lives in Idaho right now?
He lives and trains in Idaho right now in Boise. His 5K personal best in college was only around 14:30, which, given that a bunch of the guys in this race have 5K bests around 80 seconds faster than that, that's pretty impressive. And he had a huge breakthrough race in 2020 when he ran 2:09 at the Marathon Project. That was only his third marathon ever.
And it was by accident, right?
He had not, the fun fact about Mick was that he had not run a single mile under 5-minute pace in training, and then ran the marathon project at 4:55 pace. So he really had quite the day, and it looks like he's hopefully on his way to having another one here in Boston. He hasn't had a big major marathon appearance yet, so like him and Ian Butler are both kind of untested on the major scene, but they've run fast in kind of more of a time trial setting.
Yeah.
There's 4 guys in the lead pack right now. They're all bunched up, so it's hard to see, but so Kibet, Montañez, Mick, and Albertson are the Americans in the lead pack.
Oh, okay.
So there are 4 Americans in contention. They're running closer to 2:07 pace, which is good news, because if they were trying to rip, 2:04, 2:05 from the gun, I don't think we'd see Americans in contention later in the race. The men in the chase pack for the U.S. are about a minute back of that, so they're on around 2:09 pace. But especially keep an eye on guys like Scott Fauble and Colin Benny, who have really run well at Boston before, because they might be measuring their effort a lot smarter than some of the guys who haven't run the course before.
One of the cool things, too, if you see this, if you guys are going to results.ba.org, you can see this predicted finish time as well. So if you're, listening into us from Boston and you want to run over to the finish line, 11:43, 49 a.m., you'll be able to see the men's finish. We unfortunately missed the men's wheelchair finish, but it looks like the women's one is coming up pretty soon as well.
The only other thing I'll add about measuring effort, you can see them just in the distance now, but the bright yellow kit of Edna Kiplagat in that chase pack in the women's race, she's 42 years young, but she has won Boston in the past. She got second last year. She's one of those people who is always going to run really smart. She kind of is like, the international runners, Des Linden.
Yeah.
So in this race where you might see a lot of surges up front and you might see a lot of people dying in the later half of the race, keep an eye on her to run a really even effort throughout. Even though it looks like a big gap now, a lot can happen in the second half of the race, and it could get a lot closer in contention as they go on.
The women's race is getting going very early. So just for reference, the 11th mile being 5:11, 2:17 pace is 5:15.
Wow.
So they've been running under 2:17 pace now for
what's the
6
course record?
miles, and so
Course record's 2:19.
Wow.
While there are 3 women here right now, there's a chance that those behind them have an opportunity to come back. It's a long race. They haven't even hit the halfway point yet, and they're completely sending it.
So speaking of, as the men are running through Wellesley right now, for folks that aren't super experienced on Boston, I always say that miles 13 to 16 of Boston is the danger zone, because you hit halfway, you feel good, and then there's 3 downhill miles in a row. And so the mistake people always make in Boston is that they feel like, oh, this is my day. This is when I'm going to push from 13 to 16, because you're running downhill, you feel good, it's not later in the race. And then as soon as you hit Newton, you hit the hills, and you regret that decision greatly. So as you'll see these guys, kind of rolling down the hills over the next couple miles, you'll probably see the women doing the same. It is a very tempting time in the race to push the pace, but it can be very foolish if you don't plan it out well for the whole 26 miles.
I felt like that was awesome insight, but you've never even run the Boston Marathon before. You've run
so
the most miles on the Boston Marathon
I was thinking about
course.
this the other day. I reasonably believe that I have run the most miles on the Boston Marathon course of anyone who has never run Boston.
In the history of America.
I grew up at mile 16, and I've lived since college. I moved back to Boston and now live at mile 22.
Amazing.
And have lived here for 7 years. So I have done a lot of running on pretty much every inch of this course. I've just never actually run
Next
the Boston
year.
Marathon.
All right,
Next
for
year.
the women's chair, we had Susanna Scaroni from USA win, and on the men's side, Daniel Romanchuk, kind of the king of Boston. He's won a couple times, won, and he led a USA sweep in the men's chair race. So those guys are so fast, and it was cool to see a men's sweep for the chair races.
So where are they at right? What town are they in right now on the men's and women's side?
The
David?
men are running through Wellesley right now. They're
Okay.
running right through Wellesley Center. There's an amazing bakery called Quebrada that they're about to run past. Actually, maybe they just ran past.
And Mick is finding himself up front. Is that where he feels confident. I feel like there's a lot of sub 205, 206 marathoners in there. What's Mick doing?
When we saw this in the Marathon Project too, he hit the lead around 23 miles and didn't regret it. But Mick is one of those high risk, high reward guys where if he gets to the marathon line, the start line healthy, he's gonna run well. He just has a big problem running healthy.
The funniest thing is Mick got 2 lines in my preview for this race, and Albert Career got 0.
Yeah, just wait out an Albert Career. My man's coming.
Keep an eye on Kibet too, running right off Mick's shoulder. His personal best is only 2:11, but he ran it in New York, which is not a particularly fast course, and he has a long history of finishing top 10 and top American at major marathon races. So he's in the kind of the army camo. He just skirted off to the left here. But he's definitely one of those guys who's just always in contention and definitely a guy to keep an eye on for top American honors.
With Mick up in front, it's such a great feel-good story if he pulls this off.
So it looks like
now
Chavez, the Valencia Marathon winner, is in the lead right now.
And he's a 2:03 guy, 2:03 flat.
I'm excited to see what the women are going to come through for the 20K and the half. It'll be kind of our first indicator truly how fast they're going to be going for their predicted finish.
CJ dousing himself in 3 cups of water.
I saw 3. I was like, all right, leave some for the rest of us.
But back to the front. David, can you do a little bit of journalism work and get the story behind why the space buns on Mick?
So right now he has extremely long, floppy, like jerry curl hair, basically, and so I think honestly it's probably to keep it out of his face more than anything else.
That's how that works.
12th mile for the women was 5:04.
Oh my God.
We're not slowing down. We just passed the 20K. I'm pretty excited to see what this half is.
Was Mick in Eugene with us?
Yes. Mick was working
That's
with us.
Mick?
Yeah. That's that Mick.
That's same Mick.
That's that Mick?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God. I feel bad now.
Well, I didn't realize.
I kind of feel like that's what he wants.
At first, I thought it was like, we got like Henrik and Ingebrigtsen like in the race right now.
I slacked. I said, who's in the white?
Well, not to pull in a plug, but there's a great episode of Run Your Mouth with Mick if you're not familiar with
I was going to say, go ahead and tweet that episode out so that people can listen to that.
Drop it in the YouTube chat. That's what we need.
Yeah.
You're running. Who is Mick?
That's Mick.
It is Mick.
Yeah.
This is blowing Mac's mind right now. Also, the women are still crushing up front on the side. There's I would say what looks like a maybe 45-second back to the chase pack, but they are still in frame, so they are keeping an eye on the leaders as they cross. It looks like they are about to cross from Natick into Wellesley, just right before halfway.
Yashana, who's kind of been the one hanging back, is now storming into the lead. Maybe it's just for a bottle, but CJ is opening it up now too on the other side. The split screen. I don't know who invented this.
It's amazing.
Thomas Edison.
So, do you consider this is a question that came in the chat, is this the first serious move on the men's side? Or is it too early?
I feel like this is the third time we've seen this in this race almost.
The men's race hasn't been that quick the last few miles. I mean, mile 15 was a 5:08.
But they're on what, 206, 207 pace?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like their early pace was so quick that, the estimated finish has been relatively fast, at least like from our American eyes.
Yeah.
The estimated finish has been quick, but it really has been relatively tapered for the last 6 miles. So CJ just did a hard peek back to see if anyone was coming with him, and they are not.
I'm telling you, it's the downhills. He likes running hard on the downhills.
It's evident right now. I saw that you were Googling like who was the guy in the neon green,
Tell me about him.
So
My Googling was not working.
He's Colombian, John Tello. He's getting dropped right now, I think, but he's in the neon green kit for people wondering. I think he's got some bleach blonde hair going on, but his personal best in the half marathon is 65:57, and he just crossed 63:25. So,
wow.
I don't know if you ever want to PR in the half in the middle of your marathon, but
on the women's side, Edna Kipgott is about 30 seconds back from here, and
she's clawing her way back.
Can't even see her on screen. They just passed the half.
CJ getting bottle service right now.
Split soon.
The bottle woman is going crazy.
All right, we're about to get this half split for the women. 109.41.
So the women hit halfway in 109.41. For context,
we're behind.
That's 2:19 pace after going out in 2:29 pace through the first 5K. So they have really, really ratcheted it down as the race has picked up. And it looks like Molly is about a minute and 45 seconds back of the leaders. She's the top American still, but Nell Rojas is 23 seconds behind her.
So the course record for the women, is 2:19.59. So they're ahead of course record pace. And again, their early miles were slow. So if they keep this up, we're going to see it absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, and people were talking about this being one of the best international fields on the women's side that Boston has ever seen. A big part of that is because the London Marathon, which is normally held in the spring, is going to be in the fall this year due to, continuing COVID delays. And it's really delivering. We're seeing, 3 absolute, all-time studs in the marathon go at it and duke it out and push for most of the race. And you don't often get to see that in Boston, so it's exciting.
If CJ wins, you think there's gonna be kids across America cutting the tongues out of their shoes?
Yeah. Well, no, he went up half a size.
Oh, really?
He doesn't. He was showing us that the other day. That now he's comfortable.
It looks like Mick has dropped back.
Oh, no.
Is off this lead pack. So Mick's, hopefully his story doesn't end here, but
Hey, he could be third American if he holds on to
he
this
could
spot.
be. Just hope he didn't burn
I think
himself
is that
too
Nico
early.
right behind him right
Mick.
there?
Is this the best time for me to refill my coffee and grab a donut?
I'll take one too if you.
What would you want? You want more coffee?
Yeah.
Do a giveaway
please.
for the mug or something.
Yeah.
Like 6 mugs.
So
well, actually, the prediction contest is still open for people right now on Instagram. I'll close it if we want. Like
How
as
can
we're
you
seeing.
still let the prediction contest be open halfway through the race?
Well, because it's predicting their final time, so people are still getting some guesses off. But
Well,
I'm about to close the comment section, people.
I will say, so there's 2 Americans in the lead pack still, Albertson and Cabet. Mick is at 25K at least. He was around 5 seconds back of that. It looks like it's more like 7 or 8 right now. But a couple seconds behind him is Nico Montañez. And then there still is a pretty big gap to the 5th American, which right now is Scott Fauble, but he's running with a bunch of other people. But again, he's still on 2:09 pace in the chase pack. So let's keep in mind, folks' sort of relative abilities here, and that there might be a lot of carnage over the second half of this race. So sure, there's a big pack right now, but it will inevitably thin out a lot as they run through the Newton Hills and things start to really splinter.
Shout out to Kevin Shea in the chat who said Steph Bruce and Dez are 109.22 at the half. Are they working together? Women who have been on the circuit for a while.
I think that's 20K.
Oh, at the 20K.
Yeah, that would be a fast half.
But, once you find yourself kind of in that later stages of the race where things might not be going the way that you want it to, I think sticking with a partner is the way to go.
And sticking with a partner right now is Elkina Cabet is going up towards the front right now to join CJ. So we've got a US 1-2 at the front of the men's side.
And we have 5 American women through halfway. And just to provide a little context of just how fast the women up front are leading, Molly hit halfway in 71.44. That's 2:23 pace. So she's still on personal best pace. She's still running a great race. Rojas is right behind her at 72.
How big is that gap?
It looks like now like it's about a 20-second gap.
Okay.
Dakota Lindworm is the 3rd American chasing. She's about 45 seconds behind Rojas. And then right around basically like 2:27 pace, Bruce and Dez are running pretty close together. So it's way more splintered early on the women's side. But people are still running pretty fast just because they're not on camera. It's just that we're experiencing a really, really special race up front here in Boston.
Someone did chime in the YouTube chat saying that NBC announcers have kind of written off Molly, saying that it's not a good race. But like you said, PR. She's on PR pace right now.
And that's why you tune into the CITIUS MAG broadcast for actual expert commentary.
I can't wait to see what the women run of Heartbreak. The fastest I've seen, like I said, with that 5:07 up Heartbreak. It's really
No thanks. I'm watching my figure.
One guy we have not talked about much in this race, who is my personal pick to be a real factor late, is Jeffrey Kimura.
No, I know. I was talking about him. I think he was my pick to win.
Oh, you invented him?
Yeah, I invented
But
it.
he's still in there. So the guys in the orange and white, they're the NN running team. So they are teammates. They train together, and you might see them working together over the course of the race. That's Kipchoge's team and teammates. The thing about Kimura is
who do we have in the women? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go.
Who is that they're passing?
I don't know.
Okay, sorry.
Might be someone falling off the men's.
Well, that's exciting because then they finally get to, that means that's a pretty big gap they've closed off. That's a few minutes.
Hey guys, check this out. It's an everything bagel donut. Wow. But it's got like some sort of cream cheese thing or something.
Yum.
We don't have these in New York.
So one.
We just had better bagels overall.
So one thing to think about is that.
1 cup of water from CJ.
It's okay.
What's the over under 3?
Kimura, unlike a lot of these other guys, still races on the track pretty frequently.
Yeah.
He qualified for the 10K in Tokyo. So if it does say packed up like this late in the race, he could be one of those guys to really flex that kicking speed. And that is not something you necessarily associate with marathoners. But he's the guy kind of in the middle of your screen right now. He's got kind of like a loping stride in the white there.
Is that a real thing in the marathon?
What?
A kick?
Yeah, like, this guy's got the fastest mile speed. Is that a real thing
It's
when you get to
whoever
26
has
miles?
Coach
done the
Hanson's shaking his head saying no.
It's whoever's done the most mileage. It's like the opposite of the 15.
There have been several sprints down Boylston Street in the finish in the last couple of years, so we'll see.
Every once in a while you do get that frantic all-out kick.
Yeah. I want to know what is the fastest final quarter for the marathon in Boston. It must have been 2011.
It was definitely someone who didn't win. It was like a JV kick. Someone getting in to get under in like 3:30.
What's the Strava segment for coming down Boylston?
Street? Yeah. I mean, this men's pack is, what, 15? Or is that 10 to 15 people there?
It's closer to 15.
Wow.
The one thing I will say is
so they're making the turn onto what? This is ComAv?
So this is the Firehouse. So they are turning onto ComAv now, and we're about to see CJ up front tackle the first of the 3 big Newton hills.
Do they have names? The hills?
So there's always sort of, I think, a little debate over. There's Heartbreak Hill, which is one hill. But
the other
people
two
also refer to the Heartbreak Hills or the Newton Hills kind of collectively. So when people talk about Heartbreak being, this really tough part of the Boston Marathon, it's not just that Heartbreak is a tough hill.
It's kind of the last one.
The third of 3 big climbs. So you're seeing the first run right now. So as they
right
go
after
up,
mile 22. That's kind of.
Can you remind people, I guess, how long Heartbreak Hill is?
Heartbreak Hill, if you do the whole thing, it's about 600 meters ish.
Is there an option to not do the whole thing?
Well, so when I do repeats on Heartbreak, I do 60-second repeats, which is not the whole thing. But like if you do a quote unquote full Heartbreak, it's around 600.
If you look up, there's some very beautiful houses on Heartbreak Hill. That's
Yeah.
what got me through it.
I should say that Newton is a large city, and although I grew up in Newton, I did not grow up in any of these houses.
There's one at the very top of Heartbreak Hill that almost looks like a Spanish-inspired home, and that's the one that I was like, just get to the Spanish-inspired home at the top.
So when you get to the top, it's Heartbreak Hill Running Company, and then after that, what is it? The college kids who've been day drinking all day?
Yeah, so it's my neighborhood almost. So it's you hit BC, and that's when you hit the downhill. Those kids, I will say, when I was running and walking over here this morning at around 8 a.m., there was already a large number of BC kids who I think had woken up earlier than they normally do to start drinking.
They call this BC Christmas. This is their favorite day of the year. It's one of those things, they might not see a single runner go by, but it's still a celebration.
The one thing to keep in mind, too, on this part of the race is that they're cresting the first of the Heartbreak Hills right now, but there's also some pretty significant downhills that you'll see at this part of the race. And it can really, pound on your legs if folks are old and remember Kim Smith in 2004. She had that big lead at this point in the race, and it was this downhill that they're running down right now where her calf went, and she went from leading the race by a mile to walking. And so
how old were you in 2004? Why do you have this knowledge?
I was 12, but it was like a famous, see, Coach is nodding at me right here. I was 12 years old, and when you grow up in Boston, I didn't follow running at all until college, but I watched the Boston Marathon every year because it's a cultural event.
And you remember Kim Smith's calf going in?
Well, I have now looked back and learned some of the lore.
Stopped at his house.
But that was a famous moment.
The other houses were too intimidating.
Okay,
they're too big.
I guarantee
go to that house.
that some nerds in the chat right now know exactly what I'm talking about because it was a big deal.
Should we go to the Spanish-inspired house?
Yes. Please let me in.
She went to Providence College, so she's a Kiwi, but she was basically a local. So it was a huge deal at the time that she was leading by as much as she was at that point in the race.
To be fair, on our run this morning,
right?
Oh yes, just want to update on the split. So the 16th mile for the men was 4:34. That was when we saw CJ way ahead. 17th mile settled back in, pack getting thick again, 5:04. And then on the women's side, the most recent split that we have is the 14th was 5:06.
So we have
Locked in.
973 people watching right now. I'm encouraging everyone to just share this link. Let's cross 1,000 people
That would
watching
make
along with us.
Brooks would be happy with us.
Share that link on Twitter, on Instagram. Tell the people, tune in, mute your TVs, and watch along with us because we're having fun here.
someone in the chat goes, I just watched that Kim Smith race last week. David,
I told you this was a thing.
Where do you even find that?
YouTube.
we were talking
Was there
about on
internet
our
back
run this
then?
morning, though, a marathon trials race from, I don't even know what year that was.
Oh, that was 1984.
Yeah, so we're not much better.
Just add it to your daughter's list of races that she's
Yeah.
only allowed. She's only allowed to
We're
watch.
only
track.
allowed TV time if it's running. So we end up just going down the rabbit hole on YouTube.
Kicking back over to the women's race, it looks like they are coming down what looks like, I think, mile 15, mile 16, the big downhill going into Newton. So you might see, again, some injections of pace. One thing to keep a note on, they are not running particularly close to each other. And although it is not super
Social distancing.
windy, yeah, sure. Although it's not super windy out there, there is a little bit of a headwind at this point, like a 4 or 5 mile headwind. And so being out in no man's land might not be strategically the best way to go. And you might see some of these guys in the men's race that are very tucked in might be a little fresher in the later stages.
What I love about the women's race right now is that someone is right and someone is wrong in running the tangents right now, and I can't tell.
Where's Jez? Come on.
It looks like Jepkoska is on the right, and she is running the shortest line.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, it's a turn. You can see it on TV who's running the shortest.
It's impossible to know.
That's what one thing I like with marathon coverage is when they have the map at the bottom sometimes, so you can just see the design of the
It
course.
feels like there's a lot of wasted space on the split screen, like that whole bottom.
Yeah,
quarter
we're
of
a
the
little map,
screen.
more splits, the leaderboard. There's a lot of things we could do.
Stop! Don't complain about this. We're getting it.
What I just loved about that section of the men's race is just the fans. Like, it is deep. The crowds are deep again, and that's just great to see. We returned to an April Boston Marathon, 2 years later, and it's back.
So I got a Instagram video of Molly from about 2 minutes ago saying she's running pretty much by herself out there with Nell Rojas right behind.
David, you seem to know a lot. Why is Boston on a Monday?
It is on a Monday because it is Patriots Day.
Yeah.
It is. I don't know why it has always been on Patriots Day, but I will say it is a great fun fact as to why it is called Patriots Day. Little intertown beef. About 150 years ago, the town of Concord decided to commemorate the Battle of Lexington and Concord. They wanted there to be a state holiday known as Concord Day, which of course the town of Lexington did not like, so they filed legislation in the state legislature to make it Lexington Day instead. And as a compromise to make everybody happy, it is Patriots Day, which commemorates the Battle of Lexington and Concord in 1775. So
It's also a Mark Wahlberg movie. Yeah.
Oh God. Well,
Did you watch it?
Okay, wait, here's the question. How many separate towns does the Boston Marathon go through?
8.
This should have been trivia. We would have
It
been
is-
giving away these.
I don't know
mugs
how
to
many,
fans
but I
and
know. So
asking.
it's Hopkinton, Ashland, Framingham, Natick, Wellesley, Newton, Brookline, Boston.
It just
however many
says it on
is.
that screen or that thing right in front of
Well,
us.
but here's the thing: when you're when you're organizing the Boston Marathon, you have to work with all the different governments of each of these little towns. So this isn't like New York City Marathon. It's quite complicated to put on a
Yeah, because
point-to-point
the New York
course.
City Marathon's very easy to put on.
The pro
At least
tip-
I can shut it down.
The pro tip I will say is that the town of Ashland is pronounced like that, Ashland. So
Really?
if you want to seem like a local, it's not Ashland, it's Ashland.
That should be the trivia: how to
What's-
pronounce
all right,
Massachusetts
David,
towns.
Putting you on the spot, your top 3 of those cities that the marathon crosses. Which are your
Don't answer.
favorites?
Don't answer.
As until yesterday or 2 days ago, my
happened?
boss represented Hopkinton. So
Okay.
that will always have a special place in my heart.
Sorry you
I
got fired.
I grew up in Newton, so that is obviously in there, and I live in Boston, so those will be my top 3.
The women have slowed down. 15th mile is 5:24.
Only 5:24.
And it looks like the men are, I think, tackling the last of the Heartbreak Hills right now. They actually might be over it. It's a bit hard to tell in this camera angle.
Quebec looks really good.
18th
Falconer?
mile
Yes.
is 5:05.
And Albert Career is just on this side right there with Shuffle.
Did you say they just hit 18?
No, they're coming up to 19 now.
It says
Yeah, I would say
Isfano
so.
is
So
about 25 seconds back.
Mile 20 is the start of the last Heartbreak Hills. So they're actually a bit farther back than I thought they were. It looks like maybe they're just passing City Hall now.
Tim Rossi is dropping some gems in the chat, and he said Nell is now ahead of Molly technically, but they split the same time at 25K.
That's because it's alphabetical.
Hasn't been reflected yet.
So Lindworm is about what looks like 50 seconds back in third. So that is where those chasers are. Let's see if we can get an update on the women's chase pack overall. We have the top 3, Jepkoskai, Yashana, and Jepchurcher, and then what looks like about 65 seconds back, we have a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Including Mary Ngugi, Edna Kiplagat, Viola Cheptu, and Dejitu, who are all working together, still pretty packed up in that chase pack there.
I'll tell you what, for as much crap as we gave David about the Kim Smith reference, he's getting a lot of love. on
So much
social
love.
media.
I'm telling you,
Someone
this
is
is
like,
this
shout
is
out
a
to David
famous
Melly for the
Boston.
Kim Smith.
Yeah.
David, which one is like if there's a specific Heartbreak Hill, which one is it, and was that just it?
They're coming up on it, I believe. I think that was the second one. So when they hit mile 20, that's the basically the start of the Heartbreak Hill.
So wait, or what are they passing right now?
I think that was they're basically. You said they're like mile 19.5 right now.
What's the tiny one by 23 that like stings your legs?
That's I think the sneaky
That's the
hardest
worst-
part of
yeah.
Boston is basically, especially for folks that maybe are tuning in and are running Boston one day. The tip that I always give is that a lot of people really send it to get through the Heartbreak Hills. You think about that as like the hardest part of the course. You give all your effort, but then you're still 10K from the finish. And so you come down, you pound out your quads, you run downhill for another, mile and a half. And then when you come into Brookline, there's a very slight incline at mile 23. And that's what kills people because they've just burst all their effort on getting through the Newton Hills and then run downhill for 2 miles. And when you hit that incline right with 5K to go in a race, that's when you really see some carnage on the course.
David, you have to do Boston next year. I don't think you have an option.
I don't. So I mean, I don't. We don't need to talk about this publicly, but I guess we are. If I get the marathon trial standard this year, I'm going to do Boston 23. But
Let's go.
it's contingent on me hitting the standard.
All right, this women's group is running really well together, having company. I'm interested to see what their next mile split will be.
Albert's getting really close to that wheelchair racer.
Oh, he tried to go on the inside and got cut off and had to come back around. I was getting very nervous. Wonder how Coach Heron Legat is handling this right now with Elkanah Kabad up there looking amazing.
Do you think anyone has their the beeps on their watches?
Oh, that'd be
Ooh,
annoying.
that's a good question. Well, I know CJ was telling me how he wants to start chatting it up with people during the race. And
So-
Oh, he
But look
just
at his.
maneuvered
So
it there.
CJ has a very interesting breathing technique. It looks like he's pushing a lot of air out through his cheeks and mouth as well. I wonder if there's a strategy behind that, where the research paper was.
His arms are just like so down low.
Yeah, very dangly wrists.
But he changes his arms all the time.
Always keep us guessing.
How different of an experience is this
Than
as a
last year?
CJ fan versus last year? I was saying,
So it looks like they are about to hit mile 20 in the next intersection. I
So
believe.
this point last year, he was still leading the race.
yeah, last year
Okay.
on the broadcast, I think it was Paul Swangard, had to talk about CJ for 21 miles, and like nobody
And they
knew
had
anything.
nothing on him.
Nobody knew about CJ at the
Hey,
time.
well, we didn't even acknowledge it. We made it past mile 17,
Yeah.
which was kind of that, that breaking point. So
Yeah, so this is the moment. So they just crossed Center Street. This is mile 20, and so basically this is Mac was asking the Heartbreak Hill. This is what they're tackling right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see either guys making moves going up the hill to try and break the pack a little, or you'll often see one of the leaders put in a little injection of pace down the hill to try and break it up a little over the last 10K.
Wait, so last year to help Paul out because he was on air and I was listening, I just started Googling things about CJ and texting Paul, be like, yeah, this guy, he has the world record for the indoor marathon and on the treadmill.
It's that
and he
guy?
did this and that. And yet,
I
that's CJ.
the indoor marathon.
Yeah, 211 laps at the Armory. It's kind of nuts.
But everything makes sense now.
Yeah. If CJ is still up there at 23, I would say someone open that can of clam chowder and start heating it up for
Can
Kyle's
we heat
shoe.
it up for the shoey? Does it have to be cold?
I don't know. That sounds pretty bad. I really want to get a shot of that.
Tibet's 30.
Have you
Those
seen
like
any
just packed
details?
straight behind.
Have we seen any details yet of this to like what the World Championship course is going to be like? Because I'm curious if it's Coach. Do you know anything about it? No, just like the World Championship course that goes through Springfield, and you'd looked at it, right? Like briefly, the photo. Like is
just the map.
is it going to be flat?
Yes, it will be flat.
All right.
Yeah. Elkanah Kebed is up there as well. Could very well be, possibly the top American today, looking exceptionally smooth. I think I'm not sure what the finishing time will be, but maybe that 2:11 isn't going to last much longer. I hope so.
At this point.
And speaking of Worlds, he has already qualified for the Worlds team. So if you're tuning into this race and then also going to be tuning into the marathon in Eugene, Quebec's the name to remember because he will be representing Team USA there.
So the 17th mile for the women was 5:31. So, they were rolling in the low fives earlier. They're starting to slow it down a little bit. That's when we're going to start looking behind us to see if anyone who maybe was a little bit more strategic in those.
Guys, chat started to blow up a little
The chat
bit.
is starting to blow up
Chat's
because
blowing
we've
up.
surpassed more than 1,000 people watching right now.
Oh, that's not what I
alongside
was
us.
going to say.
But also,
We got a lot of Fauble.
Scott Fauble is moving up. Let's see if we can get some
I will
splits
get
on
you
him.
splits shortly.
I mean, regardless of whatever nonsense we're talking about right now, it's fun to have the chat and be talking to people.
Smash the
watching
subscribe
ride.
button, hit the chat, have
Like,
some fun with us.
I just think
Fauble-
of myself
Fauble
like
has
normally
moved
I'd be
into-
alone.
Yeah.
Fauble has moved into the third American spot, and he is now 33 seconds back of the leaders.
Ooh.
That's a pretty good place to be.
That's a big move.
Mick is 2 seconds behind him, but he's going the wrong way. And Benny and a what looks like
That's
a
such
couple
a
more
nice way to say
Americans
that.
are about 20 seconds behind them. So Fauble, it looks like, is running smart, is measuring his
Yeah.
effort. The one thing I will say is that mile 17 is an uphill mile, so they may not have slowed down quite as much as the 5:30 would suggest. But it does, just looking at them, it looks like they are pretty tired at this point.
So Scott Fauble has made a pretty substantial coaching change this year, part of the Bossar group. So doing things he's, possibly never done before. Knowing what we know about Coach Bossard, there's always a plan.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just for anyone, when you've been in one system for a really long time, switching it up, changing things, new variables are added to the picture. And, Scott, very much a friend of CITIUS MAG, has been pretty confident, it seems like, in all of the Slack channel chats that we've had. So
We said, stop answering us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we have a group chat with all the CITIUS MAG people, and he's in it because of his podcast, Showrunners, where he talks to other runners. It's making a comeback. He said it on the Coffee Club podcast that
he said if he gets top 10 today, he'll come back.
Yeah. So we're obviously rooting for Scott pretty hard, but he was one of those people who said, like, in running, you tend to kind of always think of, like, you go to a pro career, you want to stick with one coach for the entire duration of your professional career, and you want to wear the same uniform. But then it's like you're not Derek Jeter on the New York Yankees. Like, running can be different, where you work with different coaches, you change things up. And for him, that was the change that he needed. I mean, he put in some good years with NAZ Elite, working with Coach Ben Rosario, ran that 2:09:09 here a couple years back, but then kind of felt that the training wasn't really changing anything up for him.
It's a new environment too. So, now he's in Boulder.
Yeah, so everything's kind of starting new, fresh, and Coach Bossard's.
Did he move to Boulder?
Officially? Yeah, he moved to Boulder, and I think he's the way they work out. You might know a little bit more about this. Is it what, on a 6-day cycle or something?
It's a 9-day cycle, and Boulder is not as high of altitude as Flagstaff, so you're about 5,600 feet in Boulder. Someone's gonna correct me in the chat on that one for getting that wrong.
Depends where in Boulder.
I did run a couple miles with Scott the other day. Coincidentally ran into him on the river, as one does in Boston. And he says it sounds like his long-term plan is that they're probably going to split their time between Portland and Boulder. His fiance is from Portland, and they are going to, I think, be doing a little going back and forth. But he's also from Colorado. He's a Colorado native, and he's staying in his, I think, grandmother's basement apartment right now, is what he was saying. So it's definitely a family affair out in Colorado, which is always nice for your training environment.
I want to talk a little bit about the women's chase pack. Seems to be some movement where we have Viola Cheptu is up there. We have Monica Niji. We have Edna Kiplagat and Mary Nigai as well. So that's a group of them kind of all packed up, as well as Meserwat and Charlotte Purdue looks to be a few minutes back from them. So still that second pack of women we haven't seen in a long time on the screen is all packed up.
I just saw a tweet from Malfine Tuliamilk, who noticed that Jocelyn Jepkowski's form seems to be breaking down a little bit and changing. So keep an eye on that as they start to tackle these hills.
And one thing to keep an eye on, too, experience on this course matters so much. And Mary Ngugi has one of the, not one of the fastest personal bests of the field, but she was third in the fall. Yeah. And so she's somebody especially who you could see making moves over the last part of the race. Similarly, Viola Cheptu, who showed in New York that she could be an incredible closer, is still in that mix there. And this is, she's not very experienced. This is only, I think, her second or third marathon. But she's really taken to it like a fish to water.
So 21st mile for the men was 5:16. When we're kind of trying to analyze CJ, what is the next big opportunity in which there's a downhill that maybe...
So they're doing it right now. We're seeing it right now. They're running downhill. They just passed BC, St. Ignatius Church there on the left.
And there's a great Dunkin' Donuts right there, too.
Yeah,
that's a good bathroom if you ever want to go do Boston Marathon.
It looks like Quebec's actually trying to make a move.
Oh, this is my favorite. It's when they're trying to outrun the T.
Yeah, here you go. Beat the T. We did this with Brooks yesterday.
Yeah. So it looks like
practice there.
Chabet and I'm struggling to see who.
CJ's falling.
The baby blue is out there.
No, come on, CJ.
Jump on the train.
Chabet, who's the Valencia champion, is making a bit of a move right now. Interesting to see. Ooh, the stream is really coming in and out. It looks like Kem Warrer is kind of working his way through the pack up to meet him. And Yagan, who was up there early, appears to be hanging tough. Lemma is still in that pack. So a lot of the favorites are still in contention, but a move has clearly been made. They are strung out, and the cadence has really picked up.
And CJ is finding himself, unfortunately, in no man's land a little bit. So this is kind of the hardest part of the race. He's made it past that mile 17 mark from the fall, but can he start picking off these people and work his way back to the front? Because that's what we all want to see here.
He held on really well earlier this year. Everyone thought he would blow up completely, but he still ended up 10th.
And we're seeing that Quebec as well is really is getting gapped by the leaders and looks to be
sprinting.
struggling a little bit.
This is
That 5:49 on the screen is a gas price. That is not the pace.
On the women's side, a fun fact: this is all the Boston Marathon debut for this top 3 pack. So
Really?
they don't know the tangents. Yep. Boston Marathon Pro Twitter account has some great gems that they're sharing.
who's that on the getting passed by the?
I think that might be one of the masters.
Okay.
I will say, so there's clearly a gap forming. Chavez and I think that's Yagen behind him.
Now I only know the New York City subway. How bad is this green line? People are saying like you can't get beat by the green line.
It's
you absolutely can get beat by this is the B
you can't.
line.
Not at BU. It stops like every 30 seconds.
Oh, this is what I'm saying is you absolutely can run fast. So the B line, as somebody who runs a lot on this exact path, if you're running like 6:45 pace, you'll run faster than the B line.
nice.
It's not hard to beat
It
the B line.
stops
Well, that was a
every
big thing.
single street at BU.
Well,
Yeah.
I just remember years ago when Rita Jeptu, who later got popped for doping, was like outrunning the T. It was like, man, this either says something about her being just unreal or the trains being really bad, and it was a little bit of both in the end.
And I apologize. I think that's Guy, not Yagen in the red and white, same kit.
And I was
Different
noticing him
runner.
earlier when they did a close up of the pack. That guy looked very, very smooth. His form looked impeccable, and I wonder how tall he is because he's really trying to draft and does not want to take the lead right now.
So Gabriel Gay of Tanzania, he was a DNF in Tokyo at the Olympics.
Okay.
He did run 2:04 for sixth place in Milano. He ran 2:06 also in Valencia in December for 8th there. So
He's the one in second right now.
Yep.
What is
And-
he's flying.
The women's pack off the leaders is 113 back.
Wow, they've opened it up, and Jepchirchir's form has gotten better.
So that's Chirono
Just
in the
need a little
yellow,
downhill.
who is I believe a former Boston champion, right?
Laurie
Maybe not.
Chirono?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one in third right now in the blue.
so
blue kit. Yellow top, blue.
Gabriel, just for some of the American listeners who maybe have been on the road race circuit before, if you ran the Bloomsday run in 2017, he won it there. If you ran Peachtree in 2016, he won that. He won Boilermaker in both 2018 and 2019.
Big road
I was
guy.
in one of those races.
He won Boulder in 2017. He won the Portland Track Fest 10K in 2016.
He's
so
Peyton Jordan, 2017.
So
Yeah.
the men just came through Cleveland Circle, which is kind of
Yeah,
a big
so
turn into the city.
They just
here.
ran past my sister's apartment. They're about to run past my boyfriend's apartment.
Don't tell them where they live.
You know. And
Jen-
so this is about to be mile 23 that they're
This is where
about
Des
to cross.
broke open her
This is where
race,
they're in
right?
Brookline, exactly.
22nd mile was a 4:27.
Oh man.
I wasn't confident
So
enough to
so
say
they're
it.
about to hit 23. You see this a lot in Boston is when there's a big pack through 20, the last 10K becomes just
Oh, this
an
is a great
absolute
shot here.
slugfest.
Maybe if you squint hard enough, you can see Scott Fauble working his way up, but
No way.
I can't.
Well, so yeah, apparently the TV went to commercials.
What are their splits? What are Fable's last couple splits?
We'll try and get 35K as soon as everybody hits it.
Like it's fun that like we're all sitting
Fable
in
is
this
now
room.
only 21 seconds back of Albertson.
Wow.
So he's knocked off about 10 seconds in the last K. And at this point in the race, the question becomes, if you're tracking someone down, like you'll just run out of real estate at a certain point, even if you're running faster. But based on the paces they're relatively running right now, it's entirely possible that Fable could be up in the mix with the top two Americans in the last mile or so.
You'll see Scott because he's in a completely blank white jersey. So, I mean, something to think about, long-term implications of a marathoner his age is, getting another sponsor, the ability to build some longevity into his career. I'll talk to people at Brooks for you, Scott, if you keep this going.
And Chavez is pouring on the gas right now, and it looks like Guy is dropping back a little bit. There's 3 guys behind him that are still very much within reach. One thing to remember is that they still have 5K to go. Like, there's a lot of this race left, and those guys behind Guy are definitely, in striking distance. And so if you mistime your move a little bit, you could really find yourself in trouble.
One
But
of
it
my
looks
Twitter accounts Track Jeans is out on the course and apparently just said that Scott looks really effing good.
All right, we also have a 30K update for the women for Nell Rojas coming through. She's now in 10th, has moved up the 30K update 142.46, 330 back in the leaders. So.
Is this it? Is this Chavez just running away with it now, or
he looks really, really good?
Third.
He looks so good.
He didn't respond to that 427, which I don't think he's holding 427 until the end of the race right now.
Molly has not come through
He's
yet.
already 28.
Molly Seidel,
Cody.
we have no update on her.
No, but he looks fantastic.
Sub 28 last 10K.
I'm more concerned. I hope Molly hasn't dropped.
This feels like an election night, like war room right now. Like we're just like things are happening left and right. And we're just trying to keep up.
Massachusetts.
Dakota Lindworm has moved up. She's now the second American behind now.
Key race alert. Let's go to a commercial.
So he's coming down into Washington Square in Brookline right now. They're
That's the Trader Joe's soon.
is basically one little bump, and then it's another couple miles of straight, flat, or downhill until you hit Kenmore Square.
That's Chipotle. I think that the first E. coli cases, I think, a couple of years back were.
No, that was farther back up
really?
the course,
All right,
but yeah.
Thank God. What would we do without David?
All right, the word from Molly is there's either a chip malfunction or she's dropped out of the race because there's been no 30K split for Molly Seidel. There's Dez and Steph Bruce came through the 30K in 144.54. So let's hope for the best for Molly. We haven't heard an update yet. We'll keep you in tune.
And who's our top American woman right now?
We have Nell and then Dakota, and then it looks like it's Steph and Dez running together.
As we talk about the men's race, because they're really getting down to it, and this looks like it could be the race, we should also say that the three lead women are still running pretty much shoulder to shoulder as they work their way through the Newton Hills. They are pretty much in the same cadence as they have been for the past couple miles, but I wouldn't be surprised to see at least one of them start to really pour it on as they come down past BC.
I was just so confused. I saw a tweet from CITIUS MAG, and I was like, where did that come from?
Are you tweeting while next to
I'm
us?
trying to multitask, yeah.
It's so impressive.
Do we pay David?
Yeah, we do.
Not enough.
Too much. All right, so if I'm staying with the political, election night analysis, I'm going to go with the women's races. Too close to call.
I do like the stagger right now in which, it seems like the men's race.
Yeah.
I'm not giving up. Those three guys are there. But then I do really, then we'll have 20 minutes of undivided attention on the women,
guys,
which is...
we just received an update. Molly Seidel has dropped out of the race.
Sorry to hear that.
Break the news, David.
Will do.
Wow. Well, I mean,
Really unfortunate.
first bad marathon of her career. People have those.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing. It's if the race isn't going well, Molly knows she's running the World Championships in Eugene. It's not that far away. There's a certain point in the race where you have to make that decision where am I going to run a race that's not to my expectation, or am I going to try and medal at World? So I think in this case, it's a smart decision. A lot of people made that similar decision in 2018 with the weather, where you have to take in all the factors of if it's worth it or not. And it's unfortunate because I think Molly put herself in a position to have a really good day, and that's how you get medals at the Olympics, is you always put yourself in a position to have a really good day, and you can't fault anyone for doing that.
This is one of the few races that you can actually hurt yourself if you just try to gut it out.
Also,
So
any steeplechase.
Yeah, I guess that
You can
too,
also hurt
but
yourself.
This is a real event. David.
Mile 22, you may remember, was a 4:27 mile.
Yeah.
Mile 23, 4:26.
Wow.
So that's a sub 9 2 mile for all you high school guys out there.
If you look at the men's race right now in terms of just the projected finishing times, we have 5 American men on pace to break 2:10.
What is this cyclist doing?
We
Is that for
should
Sunday stroll or Monday stroll?
No, those cyclists often are blocking people from jumping in to the course.
we
when
should
you
also
cross the street, have you ever seen that?
When the two races go at the same time, the cyclist is sometimes warning the people, runner coming up, stay to your right, stay to your left, trying to let that person have the tangent.
it looks like Toronto has moved into second.
Don't sleep on Toronto. He does look good from behind.
And
Is that
there's-
career? No, it's not.
no, that's
too smooth.
another Adidas athlete. Well, and actually, it looks like the other Adidas athlete next to him has now put in a little injection of pace as they come through Cleveland Circle. Nell Rojas, by the way, is in 10th overall. Charlotte Purdue is in 9th. Wow. So they're still kind of flirting with that top 10.
If you've ever watched at the Trader Joe's in Brookline later in the day when there's a lot of runners, they create a system for you to cross the street because it's so challenging. They have 2 pieces of string, and you have to walk into the center, and they angle you forward so the runners can get by. So they put the string out, they put you in the middle, and then they bring you to the other side. It's quite the production that they've expertly done.
So I think that other Adidas athlete was Benson Kipruto, our defending champ.
Great.
So it doesn't seem like we'll have another back-to-back.
Don't say that. I mean... 427, 426. They still have
Chibet looks really good right now.
I'm projecting Chibet to win.
You got to wait for Florida.
I will say
the women's race is so tight right now, and it doesn't look like it looks like they're all hurting a lot.
I will say, as they keep the leader in sight, it is kind of nice that there are 2 guys chasing because they can kind of work off each other. Yeah. And, if they're both throwing in surges when they feel good, they can really eat up a lot of that real estate in between them. But again, Chibet looks so good now.
I'm very curious what this women's mile split is going to be because this one looks like the most painful jog that they've been on. It
looks like Guillet's back there in 4th as well.
The 20th mile for the women was 5:45. So let's just look up to see who's in 4th place. It's Mary.
Nugi.
That's a good person to be in 4th.
What was Mary's split?
I don't have Mary split. At 20 miles, she was 70 seconds back.
Right behind
they
her,
might run out of room.
And Kiplagat, and there was a pack at 20 miles of 3 athletes.
And
and these are Boston rookies again, up in the front right now. The 3 of them running Boston for first time.
It looks like it's starting to hurt.
Again, to prove to you all that this is the place to come for expert commentary, about an hour and a half ago, I said, keep an eye on Edna Kiplagat in the yellow kit in the women's chase pack. She will be a good one to key off of for a smart, measured effort despite surges up front. So
from the chorus, it seems like Mary and Edna are working together.
Do you want us to pat your back? All right, I'm excited to see the Scott Fauble update as well. Track Jeans is killing me.
We 426 mile.
That was a 426 mile, Max. Did you just looked at the screen and you were like, that looks
well, I want you to be wrong.
So I will say,
now they're picking it up. This doesn't look like it's 6-minute pace.
I can't remember the name of the woman who did it, but maybe 3 years ago, maybe in 2019, somebody dropped a sub 5 mile going down the hill in around mile 16 and ended up getting 4th all in the last mile 22 onwards because she just sent it way too hard and got walked down by the rest of the podium. So, these women fortunately have each other to keep it honest and to hopefully stave off the late charge, but it certainly could happen.
In the chat, we got an update that Mary and Edna are working together as well. Dangerous duo.
And it's important to, note again, just both Mary and Edna are great voices in the sport. Edna Kiplagat obviously has been around for so long. She has 5 kids. She lives in Colorado. Just an absolute,
her son's in high school at Newtown, which is like that high school powerhouse. Yeah.
Who's the coach there? We know the coach.
Jason Hartman?
Yeah.
Is it?
But then you need to speak too.
Mary as well. So Mary Ngugi, she was somebody who really led the charge on being vocal about the pervasiveness of intimate partner violence and domestic violence in the running community after the
in East Africa,
terrible death of Agnes Tirop last year. And she has really been a vocal advocate for, not just promoting women's running around the world, but understanding, some of the cultural dynamics at play where a lot of promising young women runners can get really taken advantage of by male agents and coaches as they come up on the international scene. And so, she's obviously an incredible athlete, but also is really using her platform to have some really important conversations, which is great.
So we've just hit the 2-hour mark in the men's race. Thanks for people who have been watching us for 2 hours. And there's 1,100 of you guys right now out there. Remember, hit subscribe, hit the like button, do all the YouTube things.
So you can't see from this camera angle, but Chebet is about to see the Sitco sign. He is coming into Kenmore Square right now, so they're just about to hit mile 25.
They just hit 40K, and the pack is about 18 seconds off of Chebet.
The Citgo sign is the ultimate you're almost done.
You're almost done. You're almost there. You got a mile to go. And so as they swing into Kenmore Square, I expect you will see the streets will be lined with fans and things will start really getting exciting as they come into Boston proper.
Chavette's estimated finish right now is 2:07:03. So we got about 5 more minutes of running.
That's a pretty fast Boston too. That's literally usually we'll see the Boston race is one in around 2:08, 2:09 often. And so even though they, were pretty packed up for a while, they're still running pretty quick.
And can you guys give me a rundown, 1 through 9? Just descending order. I have no clue.
Chabet just crossed the 40K mark. So you can read them off as they're coming along.
40K, we've got Evans Chabet, Lawrence Toronto, Benson Kipruto, Gabriel Gay, Jamal Ymer, Kinde Adadawa, 7th, Aman Albert Courier, 8th, Eric Kiptanui, 9th, the first American is Elkanah Kibet, and then 10th, Scott Fauble.
And coming up, Scott Fauble is 7 seconds off Kibet, and we got some excited people saying it looks pretty good.
Well, also can you go back to that?
So Albertson hit 40K in 2:03:01. So he's out of top American contention right now, but still well on his way to a pretty fast time. This is going to be a battle of the line for Kibet and Fauble, so that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Leader was 13:55 from 35 to 40K.
Wow.
Say that.
What was it?
13:55 for 35 to 40K for Evans Chabet. And that 25th mile of his was 4:37. So
okay, he's settled in.
He's settled.
He's I just.
All right, how many people do we think Fauble picks off in the end here? He's running out of time.
That's a good question. He is a betting man with over unders. I would if we set the over under at 3.5.
So the women
3.5
are
people?
Taking over. Yeah.
What was his best finish at Boston?
Was
Seventh.
it seventh and 2:09:09. So it's gonna be a big PR day for a lot of people.
I will say the women have just come down Heartbreak Hill past BC, so they are under 10K to go, and they are still 3 of them stride by stride. They are definitely picking up the pace a little bit now that they've gotten through the hills. Jeb Churcher on the left there looks, I would say, about the same as she always looks in races, so I wouldn't be surprised to see her, kind of pour it on a little bit. But it is definitely going to be an interesting past couple miles as Chabet now is going under the Mass Ave bridge. So he has about a K to go. We're about to see him take the famous right turn onto Hereford Street, then left on Boylston. So he's got this one in the back.
And if you've done the 5K, this is the little loop you do for the BA 5K. You're really feeling everything in your legs at this moment. It is a little bit of a hill, but you're about to make the last turn.
Just a real quick American update. Fauble now 9th, Elkanah Kibet 10th. There's 2 guys that are 10 seconds ahead of them. And so, when you're thinking if he closes well, we're looking at 7th. And then if you can really close or if people come back, then maybe a 5th or 6th is possible. But
all right, there's the turn.
When I'm feeling really great on my runs, I like to mimic the arm motions that Meb has done running down Boylston, where he's pumping up the crowd. So I'm really curious to see what exactly he's going to do. He's got enough. There's someone that's I think Lawrence Toronto coming up on him, so not enough to start celebrating.
You can celebrate that far.
And making this
I don't know
final turn.
You can fall. You can catch a cramp.
You can run through a cramp for a minute.
So
not me.
with
he's got this.
Less than a mile to go. The 4th American is Matt McDonald, BAA's own, so a little hometown pride there. He's 24 seconds back of CJ, so he's probably not going to catch him. So we probably have our top 3 Americans, but still a pretty impressive pace for him. And he is projected finish time of 2:10:28, which would be about a minute PR if he holds on to that.
I hope they keep the camera just as the finish comes in, so we can see everyone rolling in.
Yeah, and
good gap. Wow, there's your top 3. Evans Chabet is going to win the Boston Marathon as it returns to April. And then we got Lawrence Toronto, and then who did you say was 3rd?
Kipruto, the defending champ, will get 3rd.
And then Guille moved back to 4th. The women's race is getting pretty interesting. When is the final move going to be made?
It's still been these three for the last, 10, 12 miles, right?
Yeah, been working together. Who's going to be the first to drop off?
How do I get the job to be the one who's pointing at the finish line? It's like,
I think those guys have done it for 40 years,
it's a
so
legacy
stick around.
position.
It's your past champion. That's what we get. Yeah.
All right, we can
the
hear
bells.
this.
Here it is. Evans Chibet wins the 126th edition of the Boston Marathon, 2:06:53-ish.
That must feel pretty good.
That's $150,000 right there, I'm pretty sure, right? Is that
Hopefully
what
a
it
good
is?
bonus, too.
And the honor.
And the honor.
Oh, getting picked
Oh,
up.
I would hate that.
Your legs would be so tired and cramping up. Lawrence Giordano is going to take second. He won the Boston Marathon in 2019, finished fourth at the Olympics, won the Valencia Marathon last December.
I think that's our defending champ, Benson
Benson
Kipruto.
Kipruto. No back-to-back, but still back-to-back on the podium. Always great.
And so what we're going to see over the next couple minutes is some Americans battling to the line for both
I'm so curious. I
the
hope they
crown
show,
and,
All right.
show
and
that.
bragging rights.
I want this camera to switch.
Please show us the... Take us to Boylston Street.
Guy has finished fourth in 2:07:53. And as the clock ticks to 2:08,
And the women just passed the 2-hour mark as well.
Oh, come on, flip the camera, please.
The women's last 2
Oh,
miles
here we
was...
go. Is that Fobble?
That's Fobble. That's
I think
Fobble.
that's Guille.
Fobble could catch.
Oh, come on. 2 more
Fobble
people
by
before he
himself.
Oh, go back. Go back.
No!
Go back.
And we just have the women's race
It was
on.
split again.
Refreshing.
If you refresh those results.
Oh, here we go. 5, 6, 7. Kip Tanui, 2:08:47. Career 2:08:50, and Fobble 2:08:52. A new PR.
Wow.
Yeah, good job, Scott.
What place is that for Fobble? 6th?
7th overall.
Seventh?
overall.
Oh, is that tying his
Sub
7th
two.
overall?
First, I guess, I'm trying to think. What other Americans have broken 2:09?
Galen Ross.
Galen? Is that the list?
Dathan.
No, I mean, in the
2:08:52.
last, 5 years.
Oh.
Galen.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club. All right, so women's race. We still got a good battle on our hands here.
Oh, here on 2:08:58. So
Oh,
yeah,
2:08:58,
Marty. Yeah.
so-
So that's still. I believe that will put Fobble on the top 10 list. I know there's some debate over, which people and which races count, but he is either 10th or 11th on the top 10 all-time list.
Alcana Kibet ends up in 9th, and then Kinde Adewana in 10th. So that's the top 10 right there. Top 10 all sub 2:10 on the Boston Marathon course this year.
2:08:50.
All right, so who's our pick on this women's race right now? Who do we like?
I'm going to go with Paris Jepchirchir.
I'm going to go with
the Olympic
Jepkoskai
champ.
then.
And then you'll take... Loser has to drink the clam chowder out of the
He
shoe.
really wants to do the shoe.
I'll take Yashana.
Okay, all right. $20 on the line.
What's on the line?
$20.
Can I put on the company card?
But we got more results coming in from the Americans as
Oh, wow.
CJ is our third American on what I believe is also a personal best of 2:10:23.
There you go. Nice job,
Big
CJ.
day for him. 2:09:07 for Quebec is a big PR. I think that's like a 2 minutes and change personal
Yep,
best.
New York.
That's a great sign for Team USA going into
Yes.
to Worlds. And,
All right,
and Matt McDonald is fourth in 2:10:35, also about a minute PR.
Fobble went from 22nd to 7th.
Did you say CJ's
To
time?
the finish.
Wow, that's cool.
Very.
That's running Boston
That's
smart.
a very similar strategy as Emma Bates ran in Chicago.
Yeah. Classic boss.
Run your own
Classic
race.
boss hard.
Run your own race. Third American for CJ.
So what part of the course are they on right now, David? What does this look like?
Oh, they're
So
talking.
they're going through what
Oh, no,
looks like
someone's getting dropped.
mile 23-ish. It looks like that's Jep Koskai on the
Koskai's-
left starting to hurt a little. There's some chatter between them as I think Jep Churcher is essentially
She's like, I think
saying,
we're dropping her. We got to go
stay
now.
out of my way.
No, I think. No, that's.
Yeah. They're running very close together for this stage of the race.
This is probably the race of Yashane's life right now, would you say?
Yeah.
Reed Fisher, 5th American, 2:10.54.
That's a big PB for Reed as well. I think a 4-minute personal best. I am trying to get you where Fable officially ends up on the all-time list. I will have that shortly.
Usually this would be me, but I'm like, not. I'm in.
You're delegating. That's what you're doing. Yeah. So Fable actually, in terms of record eligible times, that's a bit hard to say since Boston is not record eligible, but I believe he is now 7th all-time on the U.S. all-time list in the marathon.
You getting some good love in the YouTube chat, David. People are very big fans of the guy in the CITIUS MAG sweater, and I look down upon myself. I was like, is it me? No, it's David.
He's the least attractive but most knowledgeable. It's crazy.
Mick Isopano ends up in 17th.
What
2:11.48.
Okay.
And then he beats Jeffrey Kenmore, who was 18th. Tough day for him, 2:11.49. And then 19th, Massachusetts' own Colin Benny, 2:12.08. So, is that a PR? That's not a PR for Colin, is it?
No.
No, but what's crazy is that getting top 20 in Boston and running 2:12 is actually probably Benny's worst race of his 4 marathons that he's run. He's kind of my, underappreciated favorite as somebody who, since starting running the marathon, has only run well and who does not get the love he really should. He was also running for a charity that brings youth sports to underserved communities, since he doesn't have a professional contract right now. So that's you love to see that as well.
It turns out, my tradition of not picking the right person is staying true. Jocelyn Jabkowski has fallen back. So
it's me versus Kyle right now.
This is just what happens, guys. I try. So if I pick you, I'm sorry.
So the 23rd mile was 5:33.
It is a curse.
So we're keeping it honest enough that I don't think Edna and friends will be catching up.
I'm really curious to see what the splits in the chase pack are right now, because with these 3 who were charging up towards the front, it was a battle of attrition up some of those hills that I feel like the more experience, especially on the American side, they could have been running smarter earlier on the race, that they might have been running faster.
American update.
Yeah.
We've got Nell Rojas, it looks like, and then Mandy Elmore, who's Canadian, has kind of moved up in front of Dakota Lindworm. Then we had Des Linden and Steph Bruce, with Elena Tabb, who trained in Boston for 6-7 years here, just behind Steph Bruce, Briowech, and Megan Schifrin. But there's seems to be a fair amount of spacing between all of those women. Charlotte Purdue is running with Degatu Emerwa.
Can we get an Edna Kiplagat update? Is she still in the mix there?
She's coming up as 6th place right now.
Okay.
So Chris, we're looking at Perez right now, right? And
yeah.
This is not just about the Boston Marathon. This is about her whole career.
Yeah.
Winning the Boston Marathon would really insert her even deeper into that conversation of all-time great female marathoners.
Yes, because if you look at the personal best, what do you have it pulled up? She's up there top 5. It's so hard for me to just kind of think of the world record is 2:14, which is it's out there.
Yeah.
But if we go back just a couple of years ago, anyone under 2:20 was considered amazing, and now we have a bunch of people who are under 2:18, which was that was Paula Radcliffe territory, and she was solo for the longest time. So Paris Churcher's 2:17.16, has an Olympic gold medal, has won New York.
They're
and
running
now
on
might win
top of
Boston.
each other.
I was going to say, I think Jeff Churcher is really annoyed with the heel clipping that's going on, because she's gestured to.
Too.
Okay, wait. Sam Grotwell with an amazing tweet here. He says, in defiance of all the shenanigans going on around him, Scott Fauble ran dead even halfway splits of 104.26, 104.26.
Wow. So
metronome.
What's happening right now reminds me of the 2016 Olympic trials, where there's a lot of pointing and arguing going around when Meb was getting his heels clipped by Galen during the Olympic trials, and Meb just pointed at him and told him, it was this is the roads, not the track. Like
Yeah.
you have all this space to work with. Why are you clipping my heels? And it's just like, again, to the point, like sometimes CJ talked about this before about like playing mind games with the competition. That might just be what they're doing here, just trying to annoy each other as much as they can to get even the slightest bit of an edge on the competition.
So what I was looking through, so the top 8 Americans have now finished on the men's side. I'll see if I can get you top 10. Yep, top 10. BAA had a good day, putting 3 Americans in the top 10. But 4 of the top 10 Americans do not have a professional contract right now. So any shoe companies watching, get out your wallets.
All right, so we still have 1,000 people watching us right now as this race is really about to
Yeah, I mean,
get crazy.
we had Jip Koska is falling pretty far back, is probably going to be sucked up by Mary Nagugi and Monica
they're
Nia
chasing.
really fast.
You can really see the yellow singlet of Edna Kiplagat out in the distance over there.
There's just not necessarily enough real estate left.
So
not,
they're
not for the win, but at least for the podium.
they're through Washington Square now, and so they have about 2 miles to go. It will be a pretty fast time despite some of the splits in the middle. It looks like they'll probably finish around 2:21.
Kind of a hard way to run it. I mean, you definitely broke apart away from the pack, but
I have no idea what must be. Take that. Oh, and they're sharing a cup of water.
Oh my gosh.
What? Yeah, right?
maybe this is
This is
olive
friendship.
branch to say, take the lead.
I thought for sure she was going to take the cup of water and just splash it
All
on
right.
her.
I'm on team. Who has Chip Cheer, Chris?
I have Jip Churcher, yeah.
Okay, I'm on that team now. You're sharing a cup of water. 2 hours and 10 minutes in the
Just a
marathon.
PR move.
That's a flex.
Ababel looking good though.
I will say it's great to see, so they're both Adidas runners, as we can tell by their kits, but Yashana is Ethiopian and Jip Churcher is Kenyan, and they famously have a big rivalry over who will be atop the marathoning scene. So there's actually some great international cooperation too in
Kyle,
the
can
water
you pull
share.
up the list of the winners from the
I
Boston
do just
Marathon?
want to correct David because Abel's Nike.
Oh, my
Yeah,
apologies.
you've been really good. You were on fire, but
Now, please leave.
I'm out, guys.
Can you pull up the
That was a
winners?
heat
I want to
check.
see what the total count is between Kenya versus Ethiopia, all time.
There's been 126 races. This might take some time.
No. Like there's probably a table at the end of Wikipedia, Kyle's favorite website. Victories by nationalities. Kenya has 35 total, 12 women. Ethiopia has 14 total.
Oh, this is a great shot right
women.
here, running stride by stride.
This is a great camera angle. All right, who's got better form, Kyle? Who do you think?
Ababel.
You're just saying that.
Yeah, they should hit 40K any minute now, and we'll get that last big split before they come into Kenmore Square.
Checking the watch.
Like
I don't know what you're.
what is it
looking for.
in the wire? Omar.
At this point.
Omar coming. Like I think Edna's coming. I think yeah. Yeah.
Were you like 9 years old when you watched?
I watched The Wire after it was all done while doing laundry in college.
So
It's the greatest show ever.
Yashana has a 220 personal best, but she's not a particularly credentialed championship runner. She got second in 2019 Chicago, but she does not have nearly the resume Jip Churcher does, and they are running shoulder to shoulder right now. So
It looks like Ababel's making a move. Oh,
I told you
but
guys,
she gave you water.
it's the curse. If I pick someone, they will not win.
Well, I just someone in the chat said like, for the Africans, it's normal to share the water. Like that just kind of goes to show like
Oh, she's putting her hand back, saying, "Come up, stay with me."
I thought we were gonna run it in together.
Hold, don't get
Nah, I'm
DQ'd.
good.
oh maybe she's blocking the win for her.
Neither one wants to lead, so every time they lead, you try to wave the other one.
Yeah,
Oh.
this is fascinating.
I'll lead the last 2 miles.
Yeah. She's like, you can have
Gotta
this
love
Strava
a
segment. I'll
sprint
take the next
finish
one.
in a marathon.
and coming off of Tokyo, talk about running for the victory. Being the Olympic gold medalist is a pretty good credential for sure. So maybe she's running smart right now, just hanging out right behind her.
Can we talk about how
New York gold, Olympic gold, potentially Boston gold? Like, that's a pretty awesome medal collection.
I mean, these crowds, too. Boston is just alive again. Having the Boston Marathon be back on Patriots Day so many days later.
Checking her watch. This is... So, wait, how many more blocks till they make the turn?
So they're running into
right
Kenmore
here,
right here. Yeah, so this is
2K to
mile
go.
25.
That 24th mile, 5:17. They're running.
It's faster than I
My
ran the
inside
Gladwell
source
mile.
says there was a clipping and then an apology for it. And Jeb Cheer looks fresh because of that.
So if you... This is maybe one of the more important bottle stations. If you miss your bottle here... Well, I guess like you can opt not to take it, it seems like.
Chris,
It's a
I'm going to
mile
go
to
ahead and
go,
say it
like,
doesn't matter
yeah.
at all. But
Chris, how many
maybe
marathons?
in your marathon.
For mine, yeah, because the last 2K is going to take me a half hour, yeah. I need the fuel for that one.
I will say I did hear a professional coach who I won't put them on blast for their secrets yesterday in a random coffee shop that I was sitting in was telling her athlete that their athlete, we can't say, but she was saying the 35K bottle station is the one where you really don't want to miss it because it can be one where you kind of trick yourself into thinking, I'm pretty close to the finish. I can, make it on the hydration I have, but those last 5K, if you're running low on electrolytes, you can really be in trouble.
How about Whoop putting up their big branding in front of the Citgo sign?
Yeah, I'm
mean,
pretty mad about it actually, but CITIUS MAG is sponsored by Whoop.
Well,
So
yeah, we
Whoop.
had a party show. I love Whoop.
I like the porter potties is late in the
That's
race. It's like, hold it. You got a mile.
What's
So it sounds like Jepkoskai has been passed by the chasers. We don't
Mary
know.
Nagugi is up, and then Enna Kiplagat as well, and Monica
38
Nigi. So
seconds.
she's in sixth.
So Nagugi is potentially, she is shoulder to shoulder with Kiplagat. They have
here
the
we go.
same
Mary's
40K
just taking
split.
off.
And now
Perez.
Jeb Churcher is
She's like, is that a Duncan?
moving.
Takes off.
She takes a
Arundel
look
has a
back.
little fight back though.
No.
You know,
No,
they're
she's
still in
fighting.
Fenway. There's time.
1 mile to go.
It's entirely possible that why she was checking her watch so many times, maybe you don't know every step of the Boston course, but your coach says, make the move at 25. And so you're looking at your watch thinking, when I hit 25 miles, I'm going to go. And
They
that's
don't
exactly what she
communicate
did.
miles. They're kilometers people, I think.
Or whatever.
She actually
41K.
She got a text message from her coach on the
Yeah,
watch.
she's got the
saying,
whole-
that's
go,
smart.
go.
Is that illegal? Like to have any sort of like that?
Another watch
You
check.
can't listen to anything. You
I know
can't
you
have
can't.
headphones in, but I don't know if you. I assume you can carry. Yeah.
It's not done.
Not yet. I mean,
Going under this bridge really is one of the last times before you make that turn. Do your little form check, and then you have
this
to
is
turn
it.
for the first time in a long
that's one of my
time.
favorite parts. I love that bridge that says Boston Strong.
So we're gonna try and get you a American women's update at 40K. It doesn't look like any of them have hit 40K yet.
Oh wait, it's not over.
Oh my goodness!
This-
Yashana coming through. The kick was too soon. Do you think she mistimed it because she didn't have a watch?
No, she's letting her back in.
This is mind games.
Oh,
Oh no. Oh.
She's right there.
She looks back.
This is definitely one of the more
about
entertaining races
Yashana?
we've seen.
Are they sharing prize money?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
She's like right on what?
How many more gears does Perez Chirchir have?
she's checking her watch again.
The real question
is.
will be this hill.
She's like, when is this over?
This is both their first time.
This is both of their first Boston, so so they don't necessarily know where they
We're
are
having
in the course.
flashbacks from years ago.
They're just like, there's so many people on the side. Like,
Wow, so
the finish has to be close.
Jeb
right?
Koskai has cratered and is now in 7th place.
Edna's in third. Nagugi is 1 second back of her.
Viola Cheptu, sorry, Jeb Koskai is in 6th. Viola Cheptu just hit 7th.
Oh, they're chilling now under.
No
under
American
the
women at
underpass.
40K yet.
Quick, look up their 800 times.
Oh, here we go. Nell Rojas has just hit 40K as the top American in 2:18:03. So
All right, this is the last little hill right here.
Oh, you could hear the crowds from where we're sitting. This is awesome.
Oh, we can't we?
Yeah.
That's not the TV. The
No.
TV's
The
muted.
TV's been silent.
That's the thing. The bells and everything that was outside. That's what we could hear.
Wow.
Looking at the watch one last time to check something.
Oh, there's the Kenyan flags. I think that's going to be a little bit of a boost there.
That should help.
See? Man.
Yep.
This is it. This is
right
the turn.
right on Hereford.
She's gonna light her up over this.
We'll
last
see how this
straightaway.
turn goes.
She missed it.
Missed the turn. That might have been.
That's where you need people pointing because the truck went straight.
And that's where the blue line wasn't.
Oh,
She's
no.
back in the
Let's go.
lead.
No.
It's like an F1 when they make an overtake.
Going to the arms.
Man, this is going to be a crazy finish.
She's gonna light. She's lighting her up.
Who you got?
Who do you have, Mac? Who do you
Who do you have,
have?
Mac? Who do you have?
Right here.
Yes,
All right,
there we go.
And now
final
turning on.
turn.
Oh! It's these little
I don't-
surges.
This is when that 5
We need
mile
the
headwind
wide- we need the
starts
wide
feeling
shot.
a lot stronger.
Takes a look back.
They're going to hold hands.
Ababel is making her move.
Oh, man.
Passing the poorhouse.
We have so many clocks on the screen.
This is a great shot right here. Tucking in for that last bit of time.
This is crazy. Almost.
There's been so many moves.
And this is just the final straightaway.
I can't wait to see who comes in third.
Wow.
Perez is hurting. She's gritting.
Perez is
Abel
hurt.
looks
I thought she was
smooth.
gonna light her up.
Going to the line after 26.2 miles.
Perez-
Incredible.
Oh, on the inside.
I hope these
There we go.
Now we're just
motorcycles get
watching
out of
the
the
race.
way.
Look where third is.
Oh, my gosh.
Third is right there.
And the Kiplagat likely
This
in third.
Finishes everything.
The bells are going.
So at 40K, Charlotte Purdue and Nell Rojas were in 9th and 10th.
Chip Chircher with
I
the
can't wait to look back and
biggest
see Enda
pain face.
Kiplagat
Perez
right
is
there.
opening it up.
What is this angle?
Oh, man.
To the line.
Oh, she opened up a little bit of
Perez,
space.
Jeff
Abel looks
Teixeira,
like she's
this
got
might be
one
it.
more. Come on.
She's going to the sprinter arms. Her
the
blades are
Olympic
out.
Gonna be-
champion, the New York champion, and now the Boston champion.
Well deserved. Put in the work, put in the surges. Perez, Jeff Teixeira
She
taking
shared
it
the
home.
water. She
Yeah.
won't share the win. This is her moment.
Did not make it easy this last mile.
21.
Takes the victory.
Wow.
In
Very
second,
She is
Ababel Yasana. And then
exhausted.
if we take pan back, is it going to be Mary
Edna?
Nagugi or Enda Kiplagat? I think it's going to be Enda Kiplagat coming through.
Edna coming. Oh, man. Like when she celebrated at the
Keep the
Olympics,
camera right
she was
there
like,
so we can see it.
so pumped. This looks like the most tired we've seen her after one of these marathons.
The most tired I've ever.
Oh, it's going to be
Mary
Mary.
Nagugi.
She's going to take back-to-back third-place finishes.
That's correct, and it looks like a big personal best too. 221.37. She ran 225 for a PB last year, so that is huge.
And Edna,
Edna,
fourth
just
at 42 years old.
even
This
if
is
you're at
incredible.
home alone right now, give her a hand because just it is astonishing what she has done over her marathon career.
They were not seen for the whole thing. They only finished 30
Yeah.
seconds behind the leader.
Who's coming up after that? They were in the shadows. Wow. Spectacular race.
So Nell Rojas was 10th with a mile
Monica
to go.
Nigeg crossing the line right now. 2:22.13 on the Boston course.
Put those feet up. The dogs are barking.
Wow. And she hasn't started speed work yet.
You know, I mean, this is what you see in track. This is what you see. The women refuse to let someone who's slower than them and less aerobically fit be a factor in this race.
She's like, please.
Please leave me alone.
No cameras, please.
So Nell Rojas's personal best, or from Boston, was 227.12.
Looks like Steph
Violet
Bruce is the
Shepty.
second American. We must have missed Nell across the line.
Nope. Did Nell?
No, they haven't finished yet. They still have
Nell's
half
still
a mile to
going.
go.
Nell's looking at about just under 226 when we should be expecting her to come in likely as the top American. Yeah, they're
This
gearing
is all
up.
a rust buster for the World Championships.
And so just rounding out 11th is this at a mile to go is Melinda Elmore from Canada.
Wow.
12th on the grit finale, Steph Rossine Bruce, and then 13th is Brooks' Des Linden.
Third American.
She's looking
for
at a
Des.
2:28 right now.
Fun
for
fact about Des, that's not her finish line. She's running all the way here.
Yeah.
Is she coming right in?
Yeah.
Get some coffee.
Man.
Just incredible to think about. Edna Kiplagat at 42 years old ran 2:21.40.
Whoa.
That's got to be the Masters world record,
Yeah.
and then some.
We don't need to Google that.
Well, she had set the Masters world record here previously, last year.
Did she run faster last year?
No.
Oh,
so
looks
now
like
lowering it.
Allie on the run on the TV.
Oh, there's Allie with the champ. Chip cheer cheer. Oh, Allie getting some TV time. Awesome. Well deserved.
She had so many people at her speaking event the other night.
I'm giving away my media jacket to a friend of mine. Oh, coverage is concluded. Come on.
Oh wow.
Well, coverage is not concluded here on CITIUS
We will be
Mag.
providing live
We're going
updates
all
as
day.
they
We're
come
going to
in.
be unpacking some results, but I guess overall, you know how like in other sports they do, it's like after in a post-game show, they're like, who are the biggest winners and who are the biggest losers? Like for the biggest winners, of course, is the people who won, but
The biggest winners
Wow.
who didn't win.
the biggest winners who
This
didn't
is why
win,
we're not journalists.
Scott Fauble,
Scott Fauble's up there. Mick.
Mick,
I'm
Yeah,
just going to say
Nick,
he's got some good
211.
TV
If you
time
can run
shows.
211 in Boston.
Mel Rojas,
Um,
taking a bet on herself on race day.
yeah, Elkanah Cabet.
Yes.
Charlotte Purdue finishes 9th overall in 225.26. We should be getting Nell Rojas coming in any second.
So Kenyan podium sweep on the men's side, and then two Kenyans, one Ethiopian on the women's side. For the women's podium, I believe that's correct.
So, Mac, how are we grading American men or women? The women are still finishing, but you know, we
A day.
Well, I mean, I think I was proven kind of wrong there, right, by Fauble. I can't wait for that text from him at me later about how wrong I am.
We just got a finish time for the top American, Nell Rojas, and a new personal best of 225.57, and it looks like she did crack the top 10 overall.
Well, that's what Des was saying beforehand. It's just sort of like, while there's all this talk about super shoes and how people are running crazy fast on the track and in workouts and like that, you get so like hell-bent on like, I have to run 220, 222 to like be competitive. No, I think Nell is like an excellent example, especially like on a Boston course, that you just need to get fit, lock into somewhat of 225 pace, and like make that feel comfortable. And you could be competitive on a major stage like Boston. So I think overall, like this was a great day, and again, one of those. It's Boston filled with surprises, and I think that's what makes this race so awesome.
I think the thing that we have to consider when analyzing how the Americans did is how deep this field was compared to past years. So, like, you know, Fauble coming in 7th place as the top American. Like, that's not a 7th place in a weak, weird year where maybe there's not. It's like, no, this is 7th in a field that was filled of guys who had run 206 and faster.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the point that I've made time and time again is, like, obviously, as an American, it's really fun to run the New York, the Boston, the Chicago. But there's like the Valencias out there of the world and the Rotterdams and the Berlin. And at some point, like, I want to see a guy like Scott Fauble go run the 205 on a flat, fast course.
Well,
and
I want to see
come
a
back.
CJ too. You know, Boston is a difficult course, and
CJ's
CJ can run really very fast. He's proven that. I think having the challenging Boston with the hills clearly is proven within the workout video, which you guys should all check out on this YouTube channel. Really has the ability to lock in at a pace and stay consistent there. So I think CJ, if I were him, which I'm not, I've never run a marathon, but I would try a fast one.
Yeah, he wants to get Tokyo is what I discussed with him. I was like, Tokyo, you're built for, because like you have those guys who want to run 206, like, and it's a big pack.
Yeah, the problem is you get the biggest appearance fee as an American to come to Boston, New York. You're treated great, and you have to. We were talking, Mac and I, to an American marathon coach yesterday who was saying essentially like you have to pay your own way to a lot of those races as opposed to coming here and getting paid and getting treated like royalty.
Although I will say that Mick Isofano, who was, I believe, the 4th American here, sixth American, did pay his own way. He was not put up in the hotel. He did not get travel reimbursement.
Wow.
Did he sleep on the Tracksmith couch?
No, not quite that bad. But he did not get the Boston Marathon did not pay for his travel. I will say we have a second American overall. Steph Bruce finishes in 2:28:02. Des Linden is the third American in 2:28:47. And you talk about the big winners of this race. It seems like it's a good race where experience pays off. And when you see, Des, you see Fauble, you see people who've run it before performing really well. That's just knowing the course, knowing the race, and knowing yourself, knowing your own body and what you can get out of it.
And we really need to talk about Molly Seidel because there was a lot of hype here in Boston, a new Puma athlete. There's a lot of investment there. We're in their city where she trained and lived. But there is a critical decision in marathoning to drop out, and marathoners do not take that lightly. And I think it's a case of World Championships. Chris, how many days away is
Less
the World
than 100.
Less than 100 days away.
11 weeks away.
Less than 90.
Yeah.
Less than 80?
Less than 90.
Less than 90.
We're gonna be there for Summer of Hayward out there, and it's something where you're gonna be representing the U.S. that you want to do it the best of your ability. So dropping out is a decision. It's a smart decision. It's an unfortunate decision to know that that's in your head and it's an option, because a lot of people say when you drop out of a race, then you always know it's an option. But I think in this case, if your buildup wasn't perfect and you have something coming up, it was the right decision, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, it was. This again kind of proves like when a race is truly that, a race and not a time trial race against the clock, that it can be it's thrilling. We saw the finishes on both sides, but in addition to that, on the women's side, it was fast as well. So sometimes that can come from the best people going head to head. We'll see that later in the summer with the World Championships. Some of those athletes have already been announced, like for the national marathon team. So particularly excited about that. But just again, Boston can be the springboard for bigger opportunities in the future. Hopefully we do get to see someone like Fauble land a pro contract again with a big sponsor. And the same goes like on the women's side with Nell Rojas being also now unsponsored. So lots of exciting things, I think, ahead.
Other big winners of the day that maybe people...
The fans.
We expected that.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest unsuspecting winners of the day, David Melly.
David
Melly is getting so much love in the
down.
chat, where someone said David Melly needs to teach a Boston Marathon history class at BC.
No, what we need to do is we're going to do the follow cam of David on the whole Boston Marathon course, and he's going to give us tidbits the whole way.
Listen, this production right here, if you could see all the cords and stuff that are happening with all the cameras,
minus the one little audio hiccup I Mac.
Pretty good stuff. Kyle Klasinski tweeted out a photo of the Boston Marathon pre-show that we did in 2018 from Dana's basement, whereas
It was my apartment. It wasn't my basement. I lived in a basement apartment.
The three of us pre-recorded, posted on YouTube.
It's a
Took forever.
garden-level apartment.
Yeah.
It's different.
And then now here we are. Many thanks to Brooks for
awesome.
having us here, and then also in addition to that, all the
Did you
weekend
ever lock the
festivities.
prediction contest?
I locked the prediction contest.
For the Hyperion Elite Threes.
So there's going to be two people who will just want a pair of Brooks Hyperion Elite Threes. But it's just great to see Boston as a city back, at full steam in April for Marathon Monday.
And before we wrap it up, let's just give some other great women their due, as Dakota Lindworm finished 4th for the Americans in 2:29:55. Bria Wetch was 2:30:42, 5th, and Elena Tabb 2:31:34 was the 6th American.
And I just want to say, I think the future of American marathon running is very bright. Seeing younger women go to the marathon earlier is something we haven't really seen until the past couple years. So that's what gets me excited about the future of American
I think that's
running.
a good point to bring up, Dana, because of how it just 3 or 4 years ago we were all so caught up on. It was Shalane, Jordan, Kara, even Des. Des is the one constant that has stayed through. Amy. And now we've turned a new leaf, and women are running faster, and also they're super competitive at the world stage. We saw Molly with the medal at the Olympics, but in addition to that, they're all young and they're taken to the marathon super well. Des mentioned it's how there is somewhat of a transition between like that old guard to the new guard, where some of them didn't compete in the super shoes, and now all this next generation has been competing in nothing but super shoes, and so there isn't that sort of transitional phase to it where everyone's taken well to it, and like we have every reason to be excited about fast times, and also just being able to rub shoulders with the Kenyans and Ethiopians who have been on the podiums of all these majors.
So I just want to touch CITIUS MAG big picture right now.
Yes.
This is the first time we've done something like this, a little bit different. Seems like there was a lot of interest. We had a lot of viewers today.
But
If you
also give
enjoyed
us
it-
feedback too. Like we're always trying to make this better.
Yeah, we have some big plans this year, both at USA's and Worlds, and maybe some other races popping up. I would say go to thelapcount.com, subscribe to my newsletter, but also just really let us know if you enjoyed this. What other races would you want to see this at?
Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and in addition to that, like our early thought process is like we want to do something cool during the World Championships, where every day between the morning and evening sessions we'll be going live from the CITIUS MAG house that we have booked out there. And again, similar to this, it'll be us, special guests, athletes, coaches competing every single day, and it'll be fun. David will be there, so yes, for the people who love David today, he'll be dropping facts and splits and stats. So
I'm gonna plug myself. If Kyle's gonna plug the lap count, you're gonna plug David.
Yeah.
If you want to follow women's running, follow More Than Running Pod.
We need Dana.
Yeah, you gotta hold it down. Thank you guys. Holding it down. More Than Running Pod. We're going to be publishing our live podcast that we did here in the Brooks Hyperion House with Julie Culley this upcoming week on Tuesday. If Chris can get some sort of sleep tonight. And there's just a lot more coming up from
You want
us.
to plug anything?
I don't need to plug my own because everyone knows run your mouth, but I will just say that
Savage.
one of the things I like about CITIUS is that sort of, expert perspective from people who have been in the sport who do it. So another one, we got to shout out Jasmine Todd with her new
She'll be with us
Instagram
at
Live
USA's
podcast.
USA she'll be competing, and then maybe at Worlds as well. But
the
beyond
CITIUS
that,
MAG team
And
is
there's a lot of people behind the
who do it
scenes.
and who understand the sport and who both know and love track and field and marathon running, but who also have a lot of experience too.
yeah.
And we got to give it to the guy behind everything today. Mac, let's see, one last time.
Yeah, Mac, like any last words? How did all the fires you put out today, how'd it go?
It was all right. We had 2 cameras die. I accidentally turned off the soundboard once. We had to log into a different account. So thank you, David, for your NBC account. Pretty standard CITIUS job. It went pretty well.
Yeah, I love it. Well,
Send us off, Chris.
So thanks for tuning in to our Boston watch party here from the Brooks Hyperion House. Be sure, again, I'm going to keep saying it, subscribe to the channel because we want to be doing more of this. It's been a pleasure. Keep tabs on all our different podcasts because, we're going to have Scott on. We're going to have Nell on. The conversation just doesn't stop here. We're ready to just continue to unpack all the action and dive into the stories behind the moments that happened today.
And if you want to be part of the post-race celebrations from afar, just Venmo CITIUS MAG for our after-race beers.
There's 592 of you in here right now watching live. If you donate $1 on Venmo to @CITIUS MAG,
This is getting shameless at this
For
The
point.
bar
only
tab will
$1
be
a day,
covered,
you can
so-
get Chris drunk.
Yeah.
No.
Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. We'll catch you again next time.
I can't believe anyone watches.